about to leave, shouting and a commotion happened. People pointed towards something on the walls. Vincent looked up and saw a titan. Vincent looks towards the titan who seems conscious of his surroundings, even having his lifeless eyes move around. Vincent looked at this and thought, so this is the titans that everyone feared. Walls filled with gigantic titans. Then, someone ran besides Hang and asked him to cover the walls to avoid the titan from making a contact with the sunlight. Vincent looked at the person and saw a pastor, and thought, could it be, they have inside information? I have to add them. No, I have to investigate it now, since panic is happening all around the kingdom. Vincent then leaves and walks towards the church. He had to ask one of the pastors, the faster the better. I have to do it tonight. Vincent now has a cleaning job. Cleaning and picking corpses that had died. Vincent looked towards the corpse in front of him and saw the horrified faces of a dead man. You can see in his eyes that he was scared and died quickly. Picking it up with gloves on his hands, and dragging it towards the square where corpses will be burned. Literally, thousands or even 10,000 people died in this operation. And, Vincent knew that the Survey Corps will be in a bad state sooner or later. Man, woman, old, young. Vincent picked corpses of different kinds of people, and some even have their bodies crushed by debris or even the titans fighting. Vincent looked towards his fellow military police members and saw their anger expressed towards the Survey Corps. What the F***ck did the Survey Corps do? Titans fighting? Seriously? The Survey Corps is the cause of this. Hearing the same words or meaning, Vincent knew why they hate the Survey Corps, and they have a point. But the Survey Corps did this for the sake of humanity, which paid the prices this big. Then, when noon came, bad news arrived. The wall rose has been breached. The people holding Erwin accountable for what happened were horrified and quickly had him go. The trial for Aaron was dismissed and they let them go to fight the Titans. Hearing the news, Vincent frowned since this is not in the favor of the human side. This news also shook the military police as they sent people to patrol in the city. Even though this is a dumb idea considering their enemies is a Titan, doing this can also calm people, and so doing this is not without a merit. Walking back to his room, and seeing the down Boris, Vincent couldn't help but said, so even you could be affected. Hearing this, Boris couldn't help but snored and said, of course, I'm a human, and seeing people's corpses everywhere can make even the toughest person be in a bad mood. So of course I'll be affected with that. Nodding and began taking off his military police uniform. Seeing this, Boris said, the officers finally did their job and began patrolling earnestly. Even leaving a speech that we newbies need to rest since we saw a hellish sight. They're doing this because the commander personally commanded them, or else these lazy people will not move. Vincent can now move around, as long he is not caught. Waiting for the night to come, as the people from the Survey Corps take off. Vincent walked towards the sewers of the Stohes district and walked to a place. Emerging from the surface of the sewers, Vincent then looked around and found that everyone was quiet and afraid about the fight. He then jumped and began walking. He stopped towards a place he visited, the Redas pub. There is only one person inside the bar. And it is the bartender he knew. The bartender then stood up and began walking towards the back and said, "You're here. The person is waiting for you on the second floor. I sleep first." Eyeing the bartender in his departure, Vincent then began walking towards the second floor. He then walked towards one of the rooms and saw someone. A robed figure could be seen sitting on a chair. He looks towards the robed person. It is the mysterious person that appeared at the last second of the fight. The person who saved Aaron. He looked at the robed person and called out. On top of the wall rose. A person emerged from the back of the cart Titan. The person then looked beside her and saw Reiner, breathing hard from all the running he did. Reiner then looked towards the cart Titan person and asked, "Did you get Aaron?" "No." "What? How?" Reiner asked, and was shocked seeing their slip away once again and having no result to report to. Someone from them disarmed me by shooting the important parts, the cart titan said as she then thought, that person knew where the important things of the weapon were, and knew where to shoot the weaknesses. Just who is that? Hearing this, Reiner couldn't help but comment, what did they do? As if that person knew it from the start. Hearing this, the cart titan thought of something, the people who knew the parts of it were the people from the Marley Higher UPS, but that's impossible for them to help the Eldians, and the other one is at the people from the Warriors Regiment. Wait. She then looked at Reiner who had the same idea as her and murmured. Could it be? Is it you? Annie. A/N. Annie is back. Hope you guys still enjoying this fanfic. Hope you guys have an amazing month. And this month's chapters are done. See you guys on January 4th. If you want to have daily uploads like this one, you should definitely check out my Patreon. See you. Peace, *. Check out my Patreon. Christmas Patreon deals. Link https://www.patreon/can you make it clear. Patreon deals. $15 Emer Fritz Patreon tier. 20 advanced chapters. Many more. $10 Royal Family Patreon tier. 15 advanced chapters. Many more. Christmas deals. Royal Family 11% off. From the original price of $10, you can now purchase it for only $7.99 on December 25th. For limited 3 spots only. Web novel reset time. $5 Titan Shifter /S Patreon tier. 10 advanced chapters. Many more. Vote. 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 Comment. Comment. Patreon. Patreon. If you readers want daily uploads starting January, go to my Patreon page and check out to find out how. Chapter 59, Historia. Annie. After Vincent said that, the mysterious person lifted her robe as her face can now be seen by Vincent. And it was Annie without a doubt. After Annie lifted her robe, Vincent took a seat in front of Annie and said, "Seems like the plan works." Annie then grabbed something under her robe. It was a gun. She took it out and said, "This thing you gave me is the key. I can't dismantle the metal fortress without transforming myself into a titan. But with this, I can just shoot the vital parts." Annie said that but still can't believe since the power the gun fired can penetrate even the hard steel. Even with the advanced technology of Marley, they can't create this kind of technology. Perhaps, the other country? But Vincent lives in this kingdom and never travels towards the continent. Just how can he get this? With that in mind, Annie couldn't control her curiosity and asked Vincent. "I know you're amazing, but not amazing to this extent. Did you perhaps invent this? Or you got this from somewhere else?" Hearing the curious questions of Annie, Vincent just replied with a short sentence, "It's a secret," and shifted the topic of conversation away from the gun, since he didn't want to dwell deep into that kind of conversation. "You're amazing too. How did you manage to unarm the cart titan?" Vincent shifted the conversation by saying that. Seeing Vincent dodging the questions and shifting the topic to her, she didn't pursue any further and answered Vincent. "Me, the female titan, the armored titan, the jaw titan, and the beast titan, all knew the secrets and weaknesses of that metal fortress on the back since we all learned it. Berthold knows it too, but since he is the colossal titan, he is too big to help and fix the metal fortress on the back of the cart titan," Annie explained to Vincent. "Unlike the other 4 titans, Berthold Colossal Titan is gigantic, and using it to help fix the metal fortress on the back of cart titan is unnecessary." "I see." Vincent listened as he nodded in understanding. He then looked at Annie and asked her, "I called you here to know if you need some bullets or news to tell me." Annie thought for a moment but ultimately shook her head. Seeing this, Vincent didn't beat around the bush and began telling her what he knew. The church or Wallace knew some secrets about the walls, and maybe even knew the history. I will investigate it tonight since it is a perfect time. I need you to guard Aaron in case he gets beaten and gets kidnapped again by them. I also need you to look and investigate the wall rows being breached. After saying that, Vincent then saw Annie's reluctant expression and knew what she was thinking. He then reached out one of his arms and patted Annie in the head as he said, "Don't worry. Everything will be over soon. After this, I will join you and go towards Marley to see your dad." Annie looked up, eyes full of gratitude. She knows that Vincent is the only one that can truly understand her. She then stood up and gave Vincent a quick kiss on the cheeks and ran as she blushingly said, "I'll go now," and jumped towards the window. Vincent looked at Annie and saw her clearly embarrassed about what she did. Shaking his head as he murmured, "Ah, youth." Even though Vincent knows Annie's feelings for him, he could only see her as a child. Vincent, as far as he knew himself, he doesn't have a Lilicon fetishes. Looking outside the windows, up to the sky where the moon shone, Vincent looked at it and saw that the moon was fully out. Exiting the bar, Vincent then began to walk towards the church's HQ. He wanted to know why the church knew something about the Titan being inside the walls. Based on what he could deduct, it is only the tip of the iceberg since knowing that the Titans were inside the walls. It is a big secret and of course, secrets can be one or more. As he sneaked around, Vincent saw that the city, despite what just happened, was filled with many people. After hearing some gossip here and there along the way, these people were from the wall rows fled in panic, hearing the wall being breached. Vincent looked like a fish in a pond, using the chaos to his advantage. He then visited someone with the same or even slightly higher standing than the guy who informs Hang to block the Titan from the sunlight. Despite the loud commotion outside, people were making. The people inside the church were silent, sneaking around, searching for his target's room. Finally, he found the room. He entered towards it and woke up the guy. Waking up and seeing a stranger inside his room, the pastor was about to shout for help when Vincent knocked out the guy. Nodding, Vincent looked at the unconscious guy and thought, "That will do." Inside an abandoned house, Vincent used the same method to wake up the pastor, as he did to the lug guy the other day. Pouring a cold water to the pastor's face, the guy woke up groggily and began to wiggle. Seeing his state, the pastor began to shout for help. Looking at the noisy pastor, Vincent kicked him in his face, knocking a tooth out of the pastor's mouth. Thud! Looking at the teeth that flew out from the pastor's mouth, Vincent thought, why would it always fly out from their mouth, whenever I kick them? Shaking his head and filtering all the useless thoughts he had on his head, Vincent looked at the pastor as the pastor looked at him in fear. "Since like you woke up for real this time. Tell me what you want?" "Money. I have a lot of them. Just please let me go," the pastor begged as Vincent coldly looked at him, unfazed. Vincent ignored the plea and just said, "Tell me all you know about the Titans." Surprised, the pastor looked at Vincent and answered, "Titans are man-eating giant monsters." The pastor said that as Vincent then stabbed the man's thighs and said, "Know that. Tell me all you know. All known secrets of the church about the Titans. I mean, the truth." Looking at Vincent, stunned, the pastor then shouted, "That's forbidden for us to tell." Before the pastor could even finish speaking, Vincent twisted the knives, digging further into the pastor's poor things. "Tell me everything." The pastor looked at Vincent's eyes and knew he would be dead if he didn't answer this time around. "I only knew that an unimaginable large number of gigantic titans were inside the walls. That's why we worship the walls and call ourselves, the Wallist." The pastor stopped as he looked at Vincent's arm in horror. The pastor began to shout since he didn't want to be stabbed again. "That's all I know. I'm telling the truth. Pucci." Vincent believed that the pastor was telling the truth. He only did this to scare the pastor so that he would blurt some secrets he might need. The pastor screamed in pain. Vincent looked at the pastor and said, "Tell me. Who do you think knows more of the secrets of the Titans?" "The Pope." "The nobles. They were the ones who were controlling us and saying what to tell our believers." The pastor blurted that as fast as he could, since he didn't want to experience any more pain. Hearing that, Vincent began to think. The Pope is inside the wall Sina, and so are the other nobles. What to do? Vincent looked at the guy and said as he twisted the knife. "Is that all?" The pastor began to feel a lot of pain, making his brain operate at a faster speed. Then, he thought of something. There's another one. She's a small girl and has blonde hair. She joined the Survey Corps. Her name is Krista. She knew something for sure as she is the daughter of Lord Rice. Her true name is Historia Rice." Stunned and surprised, Vincent was really surprised as he heard the pastor and thought, "What? Krista is a noble? How? And why would she join the Survey Corps?" Thinking of that, Vincent then asked the pastor. The pastor explained the situation clearly and so Vincent now knows. Vincent began torturing the pastor, but the guy really has no information left to tell. Since that's the case, Vincent just killed the guy and threw his dead body inside the waste and muddy water. Leaving the house, Vincent then began to walk towards the military police HQ and thought. Historia Rice. A/N, hello. If you're enjoying the story till this chapter, I would like to thank you for reading the story and enduring my English equal to baby. I will greatly appreciate if you give some of your stones, whatever the amount is huge for me. If you would like to read more, go check out my Patreon, https://www.patreon/canyoumake-it-clear. Lots of cool stuff there, and as of right now, there's a discount and you can read 10 chapters for only $3. Peace. P.S* didn't hit the goal, hitting $100 on Patreon, but if we can hit it this month, I will do a daily uploads. Or just support me with the $30 tier XD. Chapter 60, The Pope. Swish. Vincent jumped towards the window. Opening it, entering his room. He walked in and saw his roommate Boris, sleeping like a log. Probably tired from all the happenings. Vincent was also tired, and so lay down on his bed peacefully. Looking at the ceiling, thinking about what the pastor had said to him. Krista or Historia being the daughter of the noble, Rod Rice. Vincent knitted his eyebrows as he pondered and thought, Rice is a noble with good reputation, which is rare for a noble. But, with the situation between him and his daughter, Historia being sent to the front lines. Even though Historia is an illegitimate child of Rod Rice, it is not known for a noble having some affairs, but this action of him contradicts him to what the public sees in him. Don't let the public opinion fool you. Is that what it means? Vincent thought of that, which made his brain ponder more. But in the end, he mumbled to himself, whatever, I'll go visit a noble tomorrow, to make things clear. Closing his eyes, Vincent fell asleep. Next day, Vincent is now inside a carriage. His current destination was Mitra's city, the capital of the kingdom. It was the most centered place and the safest place of the kingdom, and so only the elites can live here. Through special means, Vincent successfully got himself a pass towards the city. On the way towards the capital, he saw many people with poor clothing, walking in the streets. These refugees were the people of Wall Rose. Upon hearing that the Rose had been breached, the people fled in panic towards Wall Sina's 4 district. The streets were crowded with people that made the carriage move slowly towards the gate. Near the gate stood many people. Those people wanted to enter the capital for their safety and other things, but the military police that were guarding the gate stopped people from coming in. Vincent currently is in disguise. People would never know it is him even if they know his face or seen him. He learned this technique on his Hitman journey. Anyhow, Vincent passed the inspection successfully, and so entered Mitra's city. Major leaders like the king and some nobles live here. Even the HQ of the church Wallist is in here. Vincent was still cautious about the king and so would not consider entering the palace and questioning him, the king. It will also throw everyone into confusion and anxiety, adding the fact that the titans entered the wall rose. It's like adding oil to the fire and it is for a long run, not advantageous for Vincent. And so move his target to the Pope of the Church, Wallist. Exiting the carriage, Vincent looked around, seeing some fairly large infrastructure and houses. And of course, it is within the range of large in the eyes of the medieval era. Walking around the street. Wandering around. There are only some few people right now on the streets, since it is early in the morning as the sun still hasn't risen yet. He scouts for a moment, and then walks towards an alleyway, waiting for someone to pass by. A person walked close, and so Vincent grabbed him on his mouth and drew a knife as he pointed it towards the person's neck. "Where's your Pope?" Vincent said that and let go of the hands covering the person's mouth. The guy saw this opportunity and tried to scream, but Vincent beat him to it and again, closed the person's mouth, stabbing the person's throat slightly as a little blood dripped. Vincent did not grab some random person, he grabbed a person from the Wallist. The person was terrified as Vincent let go of his hand, and the person hurriedly said the location of the Pope. On the main church. Vincent asked many questions pertaining to the Pope. Schedule, possible places if not in the church, etc. After he was satisfied, Vincent sliced the person's throat and the person lifelessly slid down. Vincent then hid the body under the sewers and then hurriedly went towards the main church. Vincent entered the church, sneaking inside every room. Picklocking is one of the must skills assassins should have, and so Vincent had that, easily bypassing this old, constructed door. Looking around the corridor and entering one of the rooms, which has a plaque written with Pope's room. This thing saves Vincent a ton of time searching for it. Entering and seeing many books. Vincent walks slowly towards another door of the room, presumably the bedroom of the Pope. Twisting and turning the door, unlocking it. With a click sound, Vincent opened the door. He looked around and saw on a bed, a person with an attire more luxurious than the other people. As he closed the door, all sounds were gone and thought, the room is soundproof. Looking towards the sleeping person, most likely the Pope, and thought, this guy is really rich. Having a soundproof room. Vincent woke up and knocked out the person, the same as he did on the pastor. He then began tying the guy up, dragging him in the innermost area of the room. The soundproof is working fine, but just to be safe, he dragged the guy to the innermost area. Splash! The Pope woke up by the cold water poured into him. Shuddering, opening his eyes as he looked around and saw that he was in his room. He then saw a person in front of him and said angrily as he matched all that happened, "What do you need?" Or, "How much do you need?" Many people tried to abduct a noble for money, and so the Pope thought of that. Vincent looked down on the Pope and said, "Tell me everything you know about the king." Vincent said that since he didn't know or even saw the king, he wanted to personally meet him and approached him later on. The Pope looked at Vincent weirdly and said, "Well, all know that the king is a magnanimous ruler, etc., yada yada." Vincent nodded at the bullshit the Pope said, and took out a knife, swinging it as he took one of the Pope's fingers. "Yubi yubi! Ah!" The Pope screamed in pain and looked towards Vincent in anger and fear. "What are you doing?" "I'm just doing what I deemed necessary. And now for the real question." Vincent looked at the Pope and said, "I want to know if the king has the founding titan or not." The Pope's eyes dilated in shock as he heard Vincent. He then looked at Vincent in horror and shouted, "Are you the people that invaded the walls? We didn't do anything and have vowed to peace. We retreated already, why are you still attacking us?" Thud. The Pope got kicked on the face before he could even finish speaking. Blood splattered from the Pope's mouth. "Answer me or I will kick you, again." The Pope looked at Vincent, terrified but still hid the truth as he said, "The king has the founding titan." Thud. Another kick had been unlearned. "You." "I already answered." The Pope looked towards Vincent stunned, and angry. Vincent looked at the Pope in disdain and said, "You might fool some people but not me. Answer me honestly this time or I will chop all of your fingers." The Pope looked at Vincent in fear, opening his mouth and closing it again. He was hesitant, and Vincent saw this and decided to strike. The Pope saw Vincent was about to cut his fingers and said hurriedly, "Stop! Stop! I speak! I speak!" Vincent stopped and said with a frown, "One more lie and I will really cut all of your fingers." The king didn't have the founding titan. No, he didn't have the qualification since he is fake. Vincent's eyes lit up as he heard the confession of the Pope and thought, this is the clue. Then, who had now the founding titan? The founding titan is passed down from the Rice family. Frida Rice is the successor of it, but someone took it from her and murdered all of the Rice family. Luckily the king survives and it is Rod Rice that had fled and the founding titan is nowhere to be found. The Pope said that as Vincent processes everything, then thought as he mumbled, "Wait. Could it be Aaron is the founding titan?" The Pope heard what Vincent had said and looked towards Vincent and said, "Aaron. The titan brat." Vincent nodded as the Pope murmured, "Why didn't we capture him at that time? Claw is really a coward." Vincent looked towards the Pope and said, "If the Rice family is the true royal family, what's the deal with Krista, I mean Historia Rice? She's illegitimate. She should just die." Vincent's eyes turn cold as he looks towards the Pope. The Pope then felt the cold look of Vincent and said, What is it? I already told you everything, let me out. Only a fool will let you out. A/N, heads up, since school starts for me. Patreon https://www.patreon.com/can you make it clear? Discounted tiers. Discord https://discord.gg/ftmcfa2. Chapter 61, Kenny Ackerman, 1. A/N, you guys are probably tired already for me advertising my Patreon smiling face with open mouth and cold sweat whatever. I'm gonna do daily uploads for this week only. If you want daily uploads next week, go vote, and if we got into top 50, I'll do it again. So, vote now. Vincent then quickly left the scene after silencing the Pope. He then quickly took a quick stop at the store and bought something to eat. Sighing a bit, Vincent then looked around him. Some shops are closed, because of the titans appearing on the wall rows. Looking around the streets, Vincent decided to quickly end this. Okay, I decided. Let's end this once and for all. Crushing the bread paper on his hand, Vincent then quickly marched towards the Orvad district. As Vincent left Mitra's city, a piece of boiling news took over the city and its surrounding districts. The Pope was assassinated. This news made another noise. Some people were concerned and some were not. In any case, this leads to military police investigating who did it. But, how much the military police tried, they can't trace the suspect. And the suspect, Vincent, is now confronting people on what he thinks, the military police. As Vincent entered the Orvad district, the Pope's death news still hadn't reached yet. So the district is pretty calm on the surface. Vincent then began gathering information about the man named Rod Rice. People who he asks answered with what the people know or in public about Rod Rice. He then knew something tragic happened with the Rice family. Their church was born by bandits and only Rod Rice was left alive. It was a piece of news that Vincent knew will be detrimental to the future and so he remembered it to his heart. Even though it's detrimental, it is not the answer he was looking for, until Rod Rice. He is at the west part of the district, in the large house there. He's currently staying at that house. Because of the Titan being inside the wall rows, Rod Rice also evacuated inside the walls. Vincent knew this and so questioned a lot of people, even questioning some high-status figures like this one in front of him. He is the merchant dedicated to the Rice family, which he learned from another high figure before dying. Vincent nodded and killed the guy. He then hid the body, but he knew he needed to be fast as the other high figure he killed might be found out sooner or later, that will cause a massive search. Walking towards the West District. Vincent then found the largest house, thanks to the people in the streets. Walking near enough to properly observe the house. It was a 4-story house with some designs on it that looks fancy. Vincent then circled the house and searched for something he could enter to. The time is still in the early morning, and so Vincent will expect Rod Rice to be awake right now and could fight. Maybe he would have some guards too, and so Vincent needs to look out for them. Vincent then in the corner was a dark corner where the building blocked the sun. There's a gap in the window. Vincent then looked around before walking towards it like a normal person walking then, with the sudden quick and precise movements. He quickly entered the window quietly. Vincent then observed and saw that there's no one inside the first floor, and so Vincent then decided to sneak up to the second floor. On this floor, Vincent can now see some guards. He then looked around and saw a window at the back of the guard and decided to sneak towards it. He then got back on the first floor and climbed up towards the window. He remembered the location and entered. In front of him was a guard on an ODM gear but with no blades. Vincent frowned but decided to ignore it as he needed to find where Rod Rice was. He then pulled out his knife and with a sneaky movement and stuffed something in the guard's mouth before slicing the guard's throat, and died. Quickly dragging the body in the corner, Vincent hid it and then continued walking to search for Rod Rice. Vincent then heard someone's talking inside a room and decided to listen to it. What is this? The wall rose has been breached. What will you do, Rod Rice? Vincent heard a middle-aged man's voice as the person Vincent was searching for was there. We will wait for the news of the Survey Corps. We send some military police and hopefully, they can solve the problems. Tisk tisk whatever, just inform me if you have something to say. As the middle-aged man said that, he heard something opening and assumed it as a window. He heard gas being pumped as the guy left. Vincent then heard Rod Rice sigh and stand up, and walked towards the door Vincent was standing at. Vincent then hid on the back of the door, and waited to sneak attack Rod Rice. Then the door opened as Vincent was covered by the door, and he didn't see the guy who opened it. But knowing it is Rod Rice, he then runs towards the front door. When he was about to jump towards what he assumed Rod Rice, he then saw a middle-aged man, with what he assumed was a gun pointed towards his face. With quick reflex, and with a snap, the time became slow, and Vincent bowed his head to dodge the gun. He dodged it, but barely. He then kicked the guy who used his hand to block it and got pushed back a bit. Vincent uses this momentum to backflip his way back, to have distance between them. "Ha, a brat, dodge my gun." Vincent heard the guy speak and frowned as he looked at the guy seriously and knew him. Isn't this the guy I confronted way back and almost lost my life? This guy is dangerous. Vincent thought that in a split second and looked towards another person who exited the door, and it is Rod Rice. Vincent then looked back towards the dangerous guy and thought, so this is his bodyguard. This gonna be ugly for me. Vincent then began hearing some footsteps as the people outside might hear the gun and decided to know what happened. Escape. Vincent thought of that quickly and began running towards the window and heard a gunshot fired at his back. Don't run, brat. Luckily, the bullet didn't manage to hit Vincent and only hit the air. Falling, Vincent quickly parkours his way down and begins running towards houses. Chapter 62, Kenny Ackerman, 2. A/N, guys, don't forget that top 50 equals daily uploads next week. So vote now. Running towards alleyways and houses. Vincent uses some small places to pass through so that people with ODM gear can't get him. Then, bang bang. 2 shots fired at him as he leaned and dodged the bullets. He then runs to the side and crashes the window of a house. He then ran as he entered one of the rooms. He hid and took out his gun. People landed on the roof and circled the house he was at. Vincent frowned as he heard people landing on the roof, as well as people shouting because of the commotion. People at the house he stayed at were freaking out and began leaving the house. Vincent then began to think of many possibilities to escape as he heard the middle-aged man speak. "Brat! Who are you?" The middle-aged man shouted, but Vincent didn't respond as it might reveal his location. "Kid! Get out of there now, so I will not have to make myself go in." Vincent then closed his eyes, as he focused his senses on his ears. He then heard the footsteps outside the house. Two people entering. He then heard their footsteps being apart, as he identified it as they broke apart from each other and searched for him, individually. Vincent then peeks outside the crack on the window at the back and saw two people on the roof. Vincent then began processing his brain and thought of a strategy to escape this situation. He knew that he failed in capturing Rod Rice, and if he had to do it, he had to kill all of the people or bodyguard of him. Then, he equipped the silencer and with a kicka sound, he readied his arms. The person searching on the right was searching meticulously. He searches rooms with caution as he then heard a kicka sound and walked towards it slowly. He then readies his one gun, unloading it and holding the doorknob, ready to open at any time. With a wish air, the guy opened the door, and pointed his gun as he said, "Freeze." He then saw Vincent and was ready to pull the trigger, but Vincent was faster and with a ting sound. The guy was shot in the head and dropped to the ground. Vincent then hurriedly dragged the guy from the room and stole his ODM gear. Equipping it and telling himself, "Now I have more ways of escaping." Saying that, Vincent then began feeling the ODM gear and its uses. This ODM gear hook shoots wherever your gun is pointing at. Different from the usual ODM gear, and this is built to kill humans and not titans. Thinking of that, Vincent then frowned as he thought, what could they possibly be fighting with this equipment? The Marley, perhaps. But the founding titan vowed to not war, so who? To kill their own people. Thinking of that, Vincent frowned in displeasure as he thought, what a fuck-up world. Killing their own people and not helping them. Vincent knew it from the start, but killing innocent people is not right for him. He killed many people, but all of them did some dirty things, and so he is comfortable in killing them. Vincent then readied the two-gun, and with the sudden opening of the window, the two guys waiting at the back was startled as they pointed their guns on them and was about to pull the trigger, but Vincent was faster as he knew their places from the start, and only have to just aim at them and shoot them. Bang bang! With 100% accuracy, Vincent killed the two and began escaping. With a wish air, Vincent flew on ODM gear. The people at the front noticed the noises and began following him as the middle-aged man looked at Vincent escaping back and said, "Making my life harder," and followed him on his back. Vincent flew and ran through alleyways, but the people can still follow him and even attack him. He then did everything he could and dodged their bullets, and then saw a sewer entrance and entered it as he opened and closed the sewers. As he closed the entrance, 4 shots were left in his previous place. The middle-aged man landed on the sewer's entrance as he then said, "I will chase him personally. Go and block all the sewer entrances, near where you could find them. Quick!" Kenny said that, as he then thought of the guy he met who escaped with the same tactics as this guy. Escaping the sewer and thought, "Ah, it is this guy. No wonder he was strong. Whatever, I just have to kill him." He said that as he opened and jumped down. Landing in, he then began tracing the footprints and began cautiously following the foot-sprint. Kenny then began walking when, out of the corner of his eyes, he saw something and heard his instincts to dodge, and so he did. Tink! He barely dodged the bullet as he then hid behind the walls, and said, "Wow, that was close. You almost got me, kid." Kenny said that towards Vincent as Vincent responded back, "You have good reflexes for an old man." "Ha ha ha, I'm just old, but I'm pretty young," Kenny said with a laugh. "Kid, are you from like the Titan dudes that busted the walls? And perhaps you can transform into a Titan." Vincent heard this and replied, I'm from this kingdom, and, no, I can't transform into Titan. Kenny heard this and sighed, too bad. But, with your technology like that gun, I'm not buying it. I don't care, Vincent said and took out a mirror and used it to have a vision without exposing his head. Ha ha ha. Kid, I like you, but... Kenny said that as he dragged his voice and said, you have to die. Vincent heard this and couldn't help but be slightly intimidated by the strong killing intent this guy is giving off on his voice. But only slightly, as he then said, oh. That's cool. By the way, I have to know my killer's name. What's your name, old man? Ha ha ha, because I like your personality. I will let you know my name. You might know me because with my feat of killing many military police back in the day. Hearing this, Vincent frowned as he remembered a legend about a guy that slit the throat of the 100 soldiers. His name is... My name is Kenny, known as Kenny the Ripper. Chapter 63, Escape and Bounty. A/N, just wanna say, the story is already completed in Patreon. Can you make it clear? I will do a proper thank you. Anyway, enjoy. Vincent heard the name and couldn't think of the legend surrounding the military police. Like at some time, a person by the name of Kenny, slit 100 throats of military police soldiers. And if the guy in front of him is really the real Kenny the Ripper, why would he join forces with the government, or rather the noble, Rod Rice? Thinking of that, Vincent couldn't help but be curious and asks, are you the real Kenny the Ripper? And if yes, why would you protect a noble? Hearing this, Kenny couldn't help but laugh and said, seems like my name is still well known. As for protecting the noble, I'm doing this for myself and not for him. Anyway, like you brat will live a tale to be known. Vincent then began looking around for something to use to escape. He looked at his ODM gear and thought, he will find me even if I didn't use ODM gear. I will use it then. Thinking of that, Vincent began to run, and used his ODM gear, and flew across the sewers. Wish air. Hearing the gases of ODM fleeing far away, Kenny said, kid. You will not get away. And 2 uses his ODM gear to chase Vincent. Vincent then began to fly. The sewers are large and so flying can be done easily. Of course, you need to be skilled to pull this off, and Vincent is exactly like that. Vincent looked back and saw Kenny pointing his gun at him, and using his gases to push himself to the side, dodging the bullet. Bang! He then looked back and pointed his gun at Kenny, and shot him. Bang! Vincent then focuses, since he knows his bullet gets dodged by Kenny. He only did this to disrupt his flying and be ahead of him by many miles. The two were in a stalemate, and no one got the upper hand. Vincent then began to fly very far, since he knew that most of the sewer entrances would be blocked by them, the people of Kenny. He then began to plan as he then flew. Kenny looked at the kid in front of him and thought, this kid will be out of gas soon. A pity that he is this skilled and will be killed by me. Seeing a sewer entrance from afar, Vincent then pulled out his gun and pointed at Kenny. Kenny saw something on the kid's hand that pointed at him, and was about to dodge at any time, when... ting! Kenny heard a faint sound as his ODM gear got hit by something. He then looked at Vincent and saw the guy have an object pointed at him and thought that was something that hit his ODM gear. Then he dodged as he heard the ting. It hit his leg as he grimaced in pain. He looked at the kid's back who now had escaped from the sewer entrance. He really got me. And looked at his wounded leg. Then, at his back, heard a swishing sound as one of his people saw him and said, Captain. It is Trot Caven, his right-hand man. Caven then landed on his front and said, Captain, are you okay? Do I look okay to you? Kenny said as he then began to stop the blood from flowing. He then checked his ODM gear and saw a hole in the gas area. Caven looked around and said, where's the kid, did you kill him? He got away. That kid got me good, Kenny said, and began to think of that weird-looking object that only made a faint sound and he got shot already. Hey! Caven looked at his captain and state and couldn't help but be amazed, since she knew that there's no person who could be outdone or defeat the captain. Never in her entire life saw someone capable of defeating his captain, but now, she saw one, and it is a kid. Aw, kids these days are scary. Kenny said that as he stood up. Caven saw this and said, Captain, your leg. Kenny stands up, and in his hand is a bullet of unknown origin. What is this? As Vincent escaped. His record was known as Kenny is a captain of the military police and with the support of Rod Rice. His full profile was in his grasps. Vincent's hometown, origin, and even his activities were recorded for Kenny to read. Sitting down on a chair, with his leg up on the chair. At his front is Rod Rice, who is currently also reading Vincent's profile. What a talented kid! Being number 1 in the military training camp, and even killing 49 Titans in total. Rod Rice said that as he read out loud the total Titan kills of Vincent. Yeah, he really is. Kenny said that as he scrutinized the bullet on his hand. Seeing this, Rod Rice said, What's that, Kenny? A bullet. That kid uses this to shoot me. Kenny said that, as he passed it towards Rice. A bullet with this technology, could it be? Thinking of that, Rod Rice then began to read Vincent's profile again and thought, he's in the same camp as those people. Could it be? He's from Marley. Thinking of that, Rod Rice decided and said, we will put a bounty on him. Bounty, such nostalgic words. Kenny said. Rod Rice looked at him and said, missed your past, Kenny? Like hell I would, Kenny said that and began walking. I'm gonna walk around for a minute. Rod Rice shook his head and then thought, one of the noble got killed also. It is easy to trace it to Vincent Glaze, or it is one of them, either way. He's the same. Rod Rice then began to instruct as Vincent's name got known all around the Mitras and its 4 districts. The military police accused Vincent of killing the Pope, and Rod Rice being almost killed. This news was a talk of the kingdom as killing and the Pope and a noble at that, is a crime. The people that knew him were shocked too. Then thought that Vincent went crazy for killing the Pope. Boris, his roommate, was interrogated but then got released since he really didn't know anything. This is crazy. Boris said that, as he looked at his beat-up state and thought, Vincent is really crazy. Chapter 64, Return of the Survey Corps. As Vincent has been wanted in the kingdom. Aaron and the others had been fighting Titans in the front lines. Annie kicked a Titan in front of her, as she looked towards Reiner in the distance and thought. Now that they'd know I'm cooperating with the Survey Corps. They really will put up a guard for me. The Survey Corps and some surviving military police are currently fighting in the flatlands, which is disadvantageous for them. Dying is inevitable for them as they couldn't bring their full skills in this kind of environment, which is what Annie is seeing right now. I will grab Aaron and run from here. I only have to save him. Aaron was currently far away from Annie as she's currently fighting the Card Titan. The Jaw Titan is surprisingly Emer, and Annie was surprised by that. She looked at Emer, who was currently protecting Krista away from the Titans. I have to end this Card Titan fast, but Peak Helmet is hard. I have to aim at the back of her neck. Thinking of that, Annie saw Aaron state and said to herself, sorry Peak, but nothing personal here. As she was about to attack, Annie was stunned as well as everyone. Something flashes on her brain, like the static of someone authoritative, says something to her. She looked at the distance where Aaron was and said to herself, as she saw how Aaron was now actively commanding the Titans. Could it be? Aaron is the coordinates. Thinking of that, Annie saw how the Titans in the surroundings ravish the Titan in front of Aaron. She looked at Peak and saw her stunned and saw this chance as she kicked her far away. Annie then ran towards Aaron was it, and grabbed him as well as Mikasa. She began running but saw Reiner chasing her trail. Aaron saw this and out of anger, shouted. Get away from me! You bastards! I'll kill you all. That was like a king's decree, as the Titans began attacking Reiner as well as Berthold on his shoulder. Don't let this chance go. Full retreat. Erwin said that as he led everyone to escape. Annie then began running as she looked at Aaron in her hand. People with no horse use Annie as their convenient horse as they climb and stick to her with their ODM gear. They knew full well that this Titan is their ally as they saw them transformed and helped some Survey Corps to die from the other Titans. They trust this Titan, but they were alert as well, and always on guard on their journey back. Annie was surprised that Emer saved Reiner and joined them. She was surprised, but that will not let her bother too much, as her mission is to escape first and think other matters on second priority. On top of the wall as everyone was climbing, the Titan with them stopped on the bottom. The people then began to use their ODM gear as they climbed up the wall. On the horse, Erwin looked towards Annie with serious expressions as on his side is someone tending his injuries. Everyone was stopped as the female Titan stopped and looked at her with mixed expressions. The female Titan then puts Aaron and Mikasa down as everyone's worry was lessened, but still, they were on guard on these unknown factors. As Annie put Aaron down, she then began running and left. Erwin looked at Annie's Titan form running figure as Levi said to him, "Erwin, what should we do?" Erwin thought for a moment and said, "Nothing." He said that and began ordering everyone to climb up the walls as well as the horse. On top of the walls, Aaron was exhausted and so fell asleep as he sensed the security. Mikasa then began to pat Aaron's back. Armin then thought of Emer who joined with Reiner's side and thought, why would she do that? Connie heard him and said, "Who?" "Emer. She helped Reiner." Armin said as Connie said. "Beats me. I don't know what's going on with that girl's crazy head. She likes to fool around, but..." Connie stopped and looked towards Krista and said, "She even left Historia behind." Connie said that and then began to crazily shake his head and said, "Too many unknown things. I leave that to geniuses like you, then." Connie left as he then looked towards where his village was at and said, "I also have concerns on my own." Saying that, Connie then thought of his parents and said, "Mother." As the Survey Corps got backed, many changes happened as people from Wall Rose got pushed towards Wall Sina. Many infighting happens every day, and the supplies of food were draining fast. Deaths were common as everyone was fighting for a piece of food. The Survey Corps then sped up the process as well with garrison and searched for that wall where Titans come in, inside the Wall Rose, within a week from the initial outset, and without the sight of wall being busted, authorities declared that Wall Rose was secure. Just to rescue me. Half of the veterans of the Survey Corps died. Aaron said that as he looked down. Armin was sad too and said, "Still, there were no casualties on our way back. The Titans completely ignored us and ran off to chase Reiner and the others. That Titan too appeared and rescued you. Marco and I sat down to try and figure it out. We have an idea what made the Titans act that way. It was you, Aaron." Jean then said, "It's a tough spot to be in, Aaron. Whether or not all those people died for nothing, it all depends on you. If you're worth the price they paid, you better show it. We don't have time to waste." Aaron was stunned for a second and then looked down on his palm as he said with determination, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've gotta do this. I'll control Titans. I'll plug up Wall Maria. I'll capture Reiner and make him pay. That's what I've gotta do to atone for all those lives lost." Saying that, Aaron then thought of something and said, "Hey! Did you hear about Vincent being wanted?" Jean frowned and said, "Yeah. He looked like killed people. What about that criminal?" Marco then said, "I think Vincent did that with a reason. He will not kill someone without no reason. I think." Marco said that and looked towards Aaron and said, "Who are the people he killed?" Aaron thought for a moment and said, "The Pope and some clerics." "What? The Pope?" Marco was stunned as he looked at Aaron. Aaron then thought for a moment and said, "That's not all of it. I heard that Vincent tried to assassinate a noble. Jean thought for a moment and said, a noble? Is Vincent this crazy before? Armin looked towards Aaron and said, who's that noble's name? It is Rod Rice, I think. Hearing this name, everyone was stunned. Rod Rice? Isn't that Historia's dad? Why would he try to kill him? Hearing that, Armin thought, why would he do that to Rod Rice? Did he know something about Historia? Or, about the Titans, so he tried to kill Rod Rice? No, maybe the news is fake and he didn't try to kill Rod Rice, but captured him. Vincent! What are you trying to do? Armin said that and looked towards the walls in the distance. Chapter 65, Date. At some part of wall rose. A figure could be seen sitting at the edge of the walls. The figure looked down as he gazed down, towards a Titan. He then jumped. No. He just let his body fall. The Titan then looked up and gazed towards the figure falling towards him. He let his mouth open wide as his hand reached up, ready to catch the falling figure. WSHH. The figure began closing distance between the Titans below when Wish. A quick movement and the entire arms of the Titan quickly began to chop into pieces. The figure then safely landed on the Titan's head. The Titan roared in anger and then used his fist to crush the person on top of his head, but failed miserably. The figure dodged and landed on the grass. The figure then sat comfortably as he gazed towards the roaring Titan in front of him, as he said, "To think this is our true form. Truly an unscientific world. Wish." As the person mumbled this, someone landed beside him and said, "You have a time playing with that Titan despite you being wanted. Aren't you too free?" The one in question looked towards his back, gazing at the person, the one that questioned him, and said, "I'm not amusing myself." He said that and gazed towards the Titan in front of him and said, "That Titan one's a person. A person with dreams, future, and family. With him being a Titan. Walking outside the walls. 20, 50, 100 years, or even who knows the year. There's something that will never change. That this Titan can be reverted back to its normal states with the power of the founding Titan. But, that's not possible anymore as the first king, King Fritz, or whatever, sealed or controlled whoever uses its power, to not do anything despite the Eldians being wiped out. It's an interesting story, and every story has its end." Saying that, the figure then got up and used his ODM gear to get up towards the wall. The person besides looked at him and said, "What about this Titan?" The figure then looked back and said, "Do nothing." Thinking for a moment and said, "Every Titans outside the walls have a chance to free themselves. Don't kill him, as he's doing his best to stay sane and not become an abnormal Titan." The person below sighed and looked towards the Titan that now began healing and reverted back to its original Titan self. The person then shook her head and then followed the person who is now up above the walls. At Mitra's city, a male and female were seen comfortably eating inside a restaurant. The female looked towards the person in front of her that had now changed faces or disguised himself and said, "You really have many skills on your sleeve." The male didn't look up and concentrated, eating. Slicing the meat on his plate, and eating it. The male then said, "Meat is good, but not skillfully cooked." The female then shook her head and looked towards the meat on her plate and said as she took a bite, "Even though not skillfully cooked, it's more appetizing enough than the food served at training camp." Fair enough." The male said that but thought of all the meat he stole and smirked. "What are you smirking about?" The female asked as the male answered, "Nothing." And continued eating the meat on his plate until it's all gone. After eating their fill, the male and female then exited the restaurant and looked around the people on the streets, and said, "I reckon that all these people have at least eaten meat once a week, or even once a day if they're rich." "Maybe." The female answered as she then looked at the male in front of him and mumbled in a low voice, "Why did I fall for this guy? The male then stopped walking as he looked back and gazed towards the female and said, "Really? I'm thinking about that too. Why would you fall for me?" And said the last part teasingly. The female snorted as she then said, "Let's go." Sitting in a high-end restaurant, gazing towards the river below, the male then began playing the piano. The male's hand danced on the keys, as it rang in a beautifully nice song. Pressing the last key, the male then got up and bowed. It met with applause across the restaurant. The male then began walking towards one of the seats as one by one, people with high status approached him. The male did this nicely as he rejected all of their proposals, ranging from being a guest musician to one-night stand. After dealing with the people, the male then sat down towards one of the seats. In his front is a female. The female looked around and saw their envious gazes directed at her. Mostly ladies and even men. The female then looked towards the male and said, "Is this one of the perks of following you?" "Maybe." The male said that as he then began eating the food in front of him. After finishing his meal, the male then looked towards the food on the female's plate and said, "You eat less than me despite you having the most needs to use it." The female gazed at the male and said, "Despite my specialty. I am a normal human through and through. I'm a female, and I need to maintain what I eat." For a second I thought you would say cliché stuff like maintaining my figure and such. The male said as the female answered. "For me being fat, I can burn calories and be in my peak shape in no time. So that's a no for me." "Ah." The male then looked towards the outside and said, "Let's go." The female and male then left the restaurant under the reluctant gazes of many. Chapter 66, A Letter. As the male and female pair exited the restaurant, they hired a carriage and rode towards the inn. The female is dressed beautifully, but then stripped, and what is inside of the dress is a black fitted shirt and a black fitted leggings. This setup of her highlighted the curves on her body. "Whistle." The male whistled as he said, "Not bad." It meets with the dress being thrown at him. The next thing he saw was the female hiding within the cloak. "Pervert." The female said that as the male smiled wryly and said, "But all the guy is a pervert. No one can change that." "Wait. It is possible. You can do it if you have the founding titan change the view of all the Eldians and cut the P." "Shut up. Just tell me what to do. Stop saying nonsense." The female cut off before the male could utter any nonsense. "Okay. Okay." The male said that as he pulled a paper and said, "You give this to Erwin. This letter contains some secrets and not all the secrets. If you give this to him, then leave." "Simple, right?" "Well, it's simple, but is that all we can say? Can we not tell him everything? Like everything?" The female said that as he looked towards the person in front of him, and thought, "This is rare. He's been acting weird since yesterday. Going out with me on a date, and not minding everything that happens on the Survey Corps despite them being in a bad situations. Just, what are you thinking, Vincent? No. Absolutely not. You must do what I instructed you to do. No complaining, okay?" The male said that with a rare seriousness on his face as he looked towards the person in front of him. "Oh, okay." The female said that in a startled voice, and looked towards the person in front of him in worry, and said, "Geez, you've been acting weird since yesterday? Just what exactly happened?" "Nothing." The male said that. The carriage then descended to silence as it began to drive towards the night sky. The carriage stopped. Stopping inside besides an alleyway where the female can hide pretty easily. As the carriage stopped, the female looked worriedly at the male and said, "Then I'm going." As the female exited, the male then said suddenly, "Everything is for a reason." The female looked behind and said, "I." But stopped and then only said, "Then, good luck. Good luck to you as well." Saying that, the male then said, "To the inn." The carriage door closed as the female looked towards the carriage that's slowly driving away, and thought, I don't know what you are thinking, but please, take care of yourself. I want to say that in front of him. Ah! What an idiot I am! The female said that and began to make her way towards where Erwin was. The military police HQ. Inside the carriage. The male was quiet and didn't speak or do anything. The carriage stopped. The male then walked out of the carriage and said towards the driver, You will forget everything you saw, right? Why yes. I will not tell this to anyone. The driver spoke fearfully. The male nodded and fished out gold coins in his pocket and flicked them towards the driver. You're tight-lipped compared to others. So I let you freely run free. But, if you tell anyone about this, I will kill you, the male said, which met with the driver constantly nodding and said, Thank you, thank you. This driver is no mere coincidence. The male hired this driver, and for he can say. The driver has a tight lip and never talks about him or tells someone about him. For example, the military police. The male then began walking inside the inn, which is a pretty high class compared to others. He then proceeded to walk towards his room. One server noticed him and walked towards him and said, Mr. Red, wah. Before the server could finish speaking, the male, or Mr. Red, waved his hand, and said, Don't let anyone enter my room, got it? Which made the server respond with, About the food. I'm full, so anyway don't let anyone enter, then, good night. Mr. Red said that and began walking towards his room. On his back is the server bowing down slightly towards his direction. Click. Entering the room, and locking it with a key, Mr. Red thought, I can easily pick-lock this thing. Mr. Red then walked towards the faucet and washed his face. A new face was revealed. As expected. Having your face tinkered with too much powder is uncomfortable. Gazing at the mirror, he looked at his face and said, Welcome back, Vincent. I miss this face. Saying that, Vincent then opened a secret compartment. Inside of it were wines. He took one and opened it. Puff. Smells great. Saying that, Vincent took a seat near the window. And gazed towards the moon. Pouring himself with wine, Vincent took a sip. What I did is not against your plan, right? He said that suddenly, almost as if he was talking to someone. But, he is practically alone, so it looks like Vincent said that to himself. As the female climbed out towards a roof sneakily. She looked towards a window and could see Erwin Smith, reading something on his hands. The female then looks around towards a possible way to get there. There's a guard there, and there too, I guess I have no choice. As Erwin was busily reading a book, he heard a knock and looked towards where the sound was coming. He then frowned and walked towards the window. He opened it and looked around. I think I heard something here. He was about to close the window when a knife suddenly pointed at his throat. Don't move. He heard a female voice and questioned calmly, Who are you? I'm your ally. The female said that, as Erwin said, Ally hey? Whose ally suddenly pointed on his ally's throat. The female coughed awkwardly and said, Sorry, I don't want to startle you. And have the blade down. Erwin backed off calmly and then began walking towards the desk, and sat down. You're calmer than I thought. Well. There are a few things that can startle me these days. As Erwin replied. Well. To be honest, you're right. The female then took out a note and gave it to Erwin. Erwin looked towards the folded paper and said, What's this? A clue, and you need to know. The female said that and began to walk towards the window. Erwin didn't open the note and just looked towards the female and said, You're the one that appeared on that day, right? The black-robed person? Looking at you closely, you resembled that person quite well. It is indeed me that day. The female said that and then thought, what about the people inside the metal fortress? Did somebody survive? Someone survived. Oh. But he's dead right now. A pity. The female said and jumped towards the window. Disappearing at night. Erwin frowned and looked deeply at the window and got up. He then closed it and blocked the window with the curtain. Sitting on the chair, Erwin looked at the paper, and slowly unfolded it. Chapter 67, Fate of the Survey Corps. The commander of the Survey Corps, Erwin Smith, had been labeled as a murderer for killing and possibly assassinating the head of the Reeves Company, Dymo Reeves. Opening his eyes, Vincent woke up. You finally woke up. A feminine voice suddenly sounded. Vincent instinctively glanced in the direction where the voice was coming from and saw Annie near the window, seating on a comfy chair. What's time is it? Vincent asked that as he then got up and heard Annie answer. It's almost 9 a.m. I've never seen you wake this late before. Annie said that as she began to frown worriedly and said in a concerned voice, Is everything all right? I'm okay, don't worry, Vincent said that and began to take a quick bath and remodel his face to his other identity, Mr. Red. The more Annie heard about it, the more worry she had about Vincent. Vincent did not wake up early as he used to, Vincent did not exercise as he used to, and so on and so forth, which made Annie think that something did really happen, but if Vincent didn't talk about it, the only thing Annie can do is watch. Vincent and Annie then exited the inn and hired the same driver last night. Sitting inside the carriage, Vincent then asked Annie, what happened? Dymo Reeves is dead. Annie said as Vincent asks, Dymo Reeves. Mumbling this, Vincent thought of the guy that blocked the exit gate. So that guy is dead. Vincent, did you know him? Annie asks that since she thinks that it is rare for Vincent to know people. Being cold and aloof as he was. Almost completely like her. Yeah, a little bit, Vincent said and thought of how the guy blocked the gate and didn't let anyone go through without pushing the cart with goods. He saw how terrified the kids and their mothers are in that situation, and so he added, it is not a happy memory though. Annie nodded and said as she elaborated all the happenings this morning, Dymo Reeves was found dead on the street. The military police accuse the Survey Corps, mostly Commander Erwin Smith, who is now being transported towards the Mitras city. The Survey Corps operation was dismissed and everyone had been restrained by the military police. The government demanded to have Aaron and Krista handed over to them. But as of now, they have never been caught by the military police and on the run like you. Being wanted. The Survey Corps members are still being restrained and being caught by the military police still right now. Vincent nodded in understanding and said, what is the last location of Aaron and the others? Deep in the forest, I think. It is for Aaron's training as well. Annie answered as Vincent frowned and said. It will be up to them to survive. Annie was stunned and said, aren't you gonna help them? No. Not yet. This is not the time to expose myself. Vincent said that as he then focuses his eyes outside. Yesterday. That was close, Marco said as he looked towards the distance of their previous base that now had been raided by the military police. The government is now eagerly wanting to have Aaron and Historia to their hands. Aaron has the founding titan and so that's given, but Historia. Levi said that as he looked towards Historia and continued, he only has connections to that noble, Rod Rice, that's all. As everyone was thinking of a reason, Hang said. I think I know the reason, Hang said mysteriously as she waited for the others to respond. Levi looked at Hang and said, spit it out. We don't have time to chit-chat. You're no fun. Hang said that, but then suddenly, her face became serious as she looked at everyone and said, the king is fake. As everyone heard that, they were stunned silly on the spot and said, what? The current king is fake. That's right. Erwin said that to me before he got taken away by the military police and got dragged down towards the Mitras city. Hang said that with a frown and then added another shocking news. She looked at everyone who still didn't believe or couldn't believe and just said, and the real royal family is the Rice noble family. So it means that Historia is the princess. Everyone was shocked as Connie shouted in shock, Historia is a princess. They looked towards Historia in a different light. It looks like they changed their perspective on Historia. Armin's brain was working fast as he connected clues after clues. If Vincent knew this from the start, or perhaps he just learned it from the Pope he killed, the thing is, he knew about it. So, why would he try to capture Rod Rice? Why would he do this as far as being a wanted individual? Wait. I am wanted too. Armin always thought of Vincent from time to time. Armin idolizes Vincent and thought that everything Vincent did had a meaning. Joining the military police. Killing the Pope. He thought all of that. Armin idolized Vincent and he wanted to be like Vincent someday. Strong and reliable. But with this being laid down before his eyes, Armin confirmed one thing. What he always does has a meaning. As expected, he's a great person. Aaron noticed Armin mumbling and a bit out of place and said, "Who is it, Armin?" Armin blinked and refocused as he looked back at Aaron and said, "Nothing." He then throws all of that thought towards the side of his brain to think later if they're safe. Erwin sighed in relief as he looked towards the same Armin and said exasperatedly, "You made me nervous for a second." He then began to walk towards the others and said, "Let's go now and follow Levi." Saying that, Aaron then looked towards Levi and said, "Where can we go?" "To the Trost." Chapter 68, The Strongest. Walking inside the street of Trost district. Levi and the others currently and trying their best to walk in a manner that's not suspicious. Try not to walk in clusters. Will stand out. Levi said that, walking in front of Aaron and the others, Aaron and Historia, just walk normally. In the back of the group were two people walking. They were Jean, disguised as Aaron, and Armin, disguised as Historia. Marco couldn't help but peek at Jean from time to time and seeing his depressed face. He thought of yesterday's event. "Hey! I'm gonna be disguising as Aaron? No way in hell!" Jean said that as he protested in front of Levi. "Jean! I know that you don't like it, but you have to do this. And I will not take no as an answer," Levi said that and stared straight in the eye of Jean. Jean looked away and then saw that everyone was staring at him. He then looked at Armin and said, "Armin, are you okay disguising as Historia?" "I do it." Armin said that as he looked at Jean and said, "This is only temporary, so you only need to do it once." Hearing that, Jean looked at Aaron, and saw Aaron looking at him with weird eyes and thought, "No way." He then glanced at Levi who's still staring at him and was too scared, so he looked away and sent a helping glance at Marco. "Marco, help me." Marco heard his plea but shook his head, meaning, "You gotta do it." Jean clenched his fist and then glanced at Aaron and said, "Just this time. I'll do it." Everyone was relieved and gave Jean a pat on the back. Jean accepted it. He got thanks from Mikasa and so he was elated, but looking at him now, Marco couldn't bear it anymore and just looked ahead. "Jean! Do your best." Connie in the middle looked around and said, "Why is the royal family's flag hanging everywhere?" Connie was the kind of kid who didn't, or even have the time bothering to remember about events and stuff like that and so asked. In front of him was Sasha who then answered Connie. "Oh! Today must be the anniversary of the king's coronation." Sasha said that and then looked back at Connie as she explained. "Once a year, they hand out a haul of rations." "Oh!" As they walked forward, they noticed a lot of people gathered in front of them. Then they heard a shout coming from the stage, explaining what's happening. "We'll begin handing out rations." One of the guys in military police uniform said that and began explaining. "King Fritz has heard of Trost district's hardships and will donate the royal family reserves. There's enough for everyone. Line up orderly." Everyone was happy about this news and so thanked the royal family. Long live King Fritz! Thank goodness! Seeing this, Sasha commented, "What a king! He sure is generous." Looking at this and hearing Sasha's comment, Levi said, "He's got more than he knows what to do with. People are weak, especially when baited with food. As Levi and the others walked, Levi stopped and said suddenly as he looked back. "Watch out! Behind us!" And ducked down. Jean and Armin were snatched away as the carriage began driving far away. Krista and Aaron. They got snatched away again. On top of the building. 2 people are standing there. One of them then said, "Vincent." Jean and Armin were snatched. I know." Vincent said that as he looked away from the telescope he had on his hands. He then looked at Annie and said, "Go towards Aaron and Historia. If they got kidnapped, don't save them." "Okay." Annie said that as she then descended from the building and began walking towards where Aaron and Historian's carriage are. Looking down, Vincent couldn't help but said, "What a hell you've been through." Vincent said that and then descended as he then began running quietly where Jean and Armin got kidnapped. Looking at the top of the building warehouse where Jean and Armin got kidnapped, Vincent began observing them using this telescope of his and thought, what a convenient tool. Vincent then saw Mikasa conversing with Levi. He then saw Levi stand up and began walking ahead. Probably going towards where Aaron and Historia was. Saying that, Vincent then looked away and then wondered how he could help them without violating the rules he set. Pondering for a moment and seeing that there's no solution, Vincent just shook his head and thought, "Don't die." Up ahead, Annie saw a carriage and thought that as Aaron and Historian's carriage, based on following some Survey Corps members he saw. Even though they were hiding, Annie could see it from far ahead using the telescope Vincent gave to her. Annie then began counting and saw that there are 2 Survey Corps members hiding, or rather, guarding the carriage. Then Annie saw Levi appear. Levi then hid with one of the Survey Corps members she saw earlier. She then looked towards the carriage and saw that it got blocked by numerous people. She then saw someone suddenly appear behind Levi, and with a gunshot that could be heard from where she was at. One of the Survey Corps members was killed. Levi then hid between the thick concrete, as Annie thought, he's cornered. Saying that, Annie saw numerous people use the ODM gear Vincent explained to him once and thought. They use ODM gear to kill humans and not titans. Hey? There's someone more powerful than you. Annie exclaimed as she looked at Vincent incredulously. Yeah. You're not kidding, right? Annie asked for confirmation one more time since Vincent is the strongest person he saw that could even rival the best of Marley's fighters equipped with 100 years of refining martial arts passed down by Marley's people. I'm not. Just how? At first, Annie was skeptical at that time, but then now. Looking at one of the people, she saw a guy with a dangerous feeling, rivaling even Vincent, and mumbled. So that's the guy Vincent had said he met that uses this strange ODM gear and says it's more powerful than him. Kenny the Ripper. Annie thought for a moment as she saw the guy's face and mumbled, I think I meet this guy before. She then remembered one time when he sneaks towards the Trost City. She followed a guy that made her escape towards the sewers. Chapter 69, A Girl's Dilemma. Annie saw how Levi barely escaped the onslaught of bullets raining down on him. She saw how skillful Levi is in using his ODM gear. Seeing that Levi fly successfully without getting hurt, Annie then followed them in a considerable distance to not be found out. Annie then jumped down and began to follow their trails. As Vincent observed his past classmates on the roof. Based on their appearance, they look like they successfully apprehended the snatcher. Then, bang! Vincent frowned as he heard a faint gunshot from the distance. It's not just one gunshot, but a heck ton of them. He looked at the rooftop and it looked like Mikasa and the others heard it too. Seeing them quickly left and using their ODM gear to go towards where the gunshot location is, Vincent then uses his means to and quickly uses a little amount of gas on his ODM gear and parkour his way towards the gunshots. As Annie observed from the distance, she saw Levi barely escaping alive and quickly used his ODM gear to hide inside one of the bars. In the distance, Annie observed and quickly counted the people at military police. 19. Annie thought of that as she finished counting when, with a quick movement, Annie kicked the person that appeared suddenly behind her. Thud. Annie then felt that her kick got blocked and so backed down to distance and said, "Who?" As she asked that, a familiar voice drifted from the person's location as he revealed himself. "Calm down, Annie. It's me." Annie saw Vincent and quickly calmed down. "Sorry." Annie bowed and then asked as she looked at Vincent's hand. "Are you hurt?" Since she kicked him, Annie wondered if he got hurt. "No, I'm fine," Vincent said and then looked towards where a lot of people in military police sort of uniform, was standing on the roof, circling a bar. "What happened here?" Annie was relieved that Vincent was fine, even though she knew she never landed a solid hit on Vincent and always got blocked. Annie threw all the useless thoughts she had and began reporting the details. Captain Levi of the Survey Corps hot besieged and circled by a bunch of military police with those toys they had. Annie paused and looked towards the bar and continued, "Kenny Ackerman got inside the bar with Levi, and currently I don't know Levi's status." "Is Levi hurt?" Vincent asked as he looked around the roof. "No. I think he's fine," Annie answered since he knew how strong people can be and a little bit of scratch is no big deal for them. Bang! A gunshot was heard and a person suddenly flew outside the bar. "Who is it? Is it Levi?" Annie asked as she looked at the person, but then saw Kenny Ackerman. Without a pause. "A glass has been broken and one of the military police members fired 2 shots towards the chair that flew. The person mistook the chair for Levi and shot it. Levi then used this chance and used his ODM gear to kill the guy, and even dragged him to use as a shield." Vincent watched a bit stunned as he saw how Levi skillfully used ODM gear to kill and escaped the encirclement of military police. Levi killed 3 people in the process of escaping and then flew towards where Historia and Aaron's carriage was. Looking towards the person that was still on the ground, Vincent thought, "Kenny Ackerman. Such a strong opponent. I am 80% confident of killing him, but that burst of power he did that time in the tunnel, is so strong that it flipped my chances of killing him to low as 30%. Putting down his telescope, Vincent then said, "Let's go and chase Levi." As Annie and Vincent followed Levi, they spotted a carriage that was driven by one of the military police. Vincent stopped and looked towards the carriage using his telescope and saw the unconscious Aaron and Historia. They drugged them. Vincent then saw Mikasa and the others called out towards Levi who just killed another military police. Looking at them, Vincent then saw them occupying the carriage. He then saw two people use their guns to shoot towards Jean and Armin who barely escaped thanks to the timely rescue of Levi and Mikasa. As the carriage near the wall towards the Mitra's capital, the people in military police then occupied and captured Historia and Aaron again. Looking once again, Vincent then looked towards Annie and said, "Chased the carriage. And I will be in the inn as always." Annie nodded her head and began chasing the carriage, sneakily watching it far from the distance. But because of the telescope, the carriage can be easily spotted. As I chased the carriage towards Mitra's city, the carriage stopped at one of the noble houses. Historia is fine with Rod Rice and he, from what I see, is treating Historia quite caring. Annie reported towards Vincent who was still in the bed. "Okay." Vincent absent-mindedly answered and just looked up at the ceiling. Annie was worried and so asked Vincent in concern, "Vincent, you've been acting strangely in the past days. Just what exactly happened?" Vincent got up and said, "Nothing." "Nothing you say? Is it perhaps you still did not trust me?" Annie said that as she bit her lips in frustration and looked down from the floor. Her eyes were starting to moist and tears were threatening to fall. Vincent looked towards Annie. Annie waited and just felt the warm hand of Vincent patting his head. She looked up and saw Vincent who then said, "Trust me, everything will be fine." Vincent patted Annie's head and then began walking towards the shower where he could wash himself. Annie watched as Vincent began to disappear and entered the shower room and mumbled, "I trust you, but I can't leave everything in your hand. I want to help too." Chapter 70, Fledgel Reeves. Next morning, as Vincent woke up late to Annie's worry, he brushed it off and asked Annie to report the happenings. Demos Reeves was dead and rumored to be killed by Irwin. The location of Historia is on Mitra's city's noble house, etc. Vincent listened, and then when Annie finished reporting, he got up and said, "Let's go out." He then began to dress as Mr. Red, a persona he created to make his life easier, and not be a wanted man that always hid in the dark. As Vincent steps out of the inn, discussion about the Survey Corps commander, Irwin Smith. Vincent listened as he continued walking. And when he's out of the building, a military police officer was out there handing sheets of paper and shouting, spreading the news of Irwin killing the civilian. The scout regiment murdered a civilian. Some of them have fled capture. They're still on the loose. If you spot any of these persons, report it immediately. The military police officers shouted that as he waved the paper on his hands. The same paper once spread when the news of him killing the Pope. He then walked towards the military police officers, as the officer spotted him walking towards him and then looked at his directions and said, as he reached out the paper towards Vincent, "Mister, these are the people who are still on the run. If you spotted them, kindly report it to the military police and we will capture them as soon as possible to stop this chaos and save mankind for the greater goods." Vincent then grabbed the paper and said, "I will," and began walking towards where Annie was. Annie in the casual dress was standing and also observing the surrounding area. "Told you, didn't I? They're the ones who had that Titan battle here and destroyed practically everything. I bet they're planning to use that Aaron monster to wipe us out. Tisk tisk. What absurd thoughts. The Survey Corps is fighting for their interest, but because of the measly accusations from the military police, they now have a bad reputation. As expected of people here. They are severely ignorant." Then she spotted something from the distance. She spotted Marco, Jean, and also Mikasa getting the posters from the military police. As Annie stared at them, Mikasa felt something and so looked towards where the stare was coming from. She was on guard the whole time, and this stare was looking at them intently. She then looks towards the direction the stare is coming from and sees a blonde girl. The only thing that Mikasa can see is the girl's back. Frowning at the familiarity of the back, Mikasa wondered who it was. She then saw a guy with a suit look question the girl, and then looked at them and bowed slightly and then began walking. Mikasa wanted to follow them, but then heard Jean say, "Is there something's wrong, Mikasa?" Mikasa glanced at the two and saw their worries and said, "Nothing." And when she saw that they were still worried, she asked, "Did we get all the supplies?" "Yet. We're about to leave when Jean saw your frowning face." Marco said that, as Jean looked at him with a begging face. "Then. Let's go." Mikasa then began to walk. In the distance, Vincent and Annie watched their back. "Did they recognize you?" "Probably didn't. I turned my back as soon as Mikasa noticed me." Annie answered as she adjusted the glasses on her eyes. Annie's face right now was the intellectual type. Episode 3 of AOT Final Season. You can see her face there. They seem to be doing better than I think. Vincent said that as he rubbed his chin. Vincent then thought of Demos Reeves and said, "The military police officers are hunting down Demos Reeves' son, Flegel Reeves." Annie glanced at Vincent and said, "Are you planning to help him?" "Well, if I spotted him in my search, I will help him." Vincent said that and looked at Annie, "And for you? You go and spy on Historia and Aaron's situation. Don't reveal yourself. Don't fight the military police and only run, and if there's really no choice, that's the time you have to fight back. I will be there too after I observed the movements of the Survey Corps that are still here." Annie nodded and said, "Then, I will go now." Vincent looked towards Annie's disappearing back and thought, now that I have an eye on Historia and Aaron's situation, I can focus my attention and help the Survey Corps here. Vincent hired a carriage and boarded it. What's the girl's name again?" It is Hang Zoe, right? When Vincent thinks of the Survey Corps, Irwin will be there on his mind. As for what I heard, Irwin Smith's trial will begin soon. As for whether he lived or died, I already did my part in helping him. As for the rest, he will be on his own. Wait up, you fat ass. On some desolate place of Trost, 3 military police officers were chasing a guy. These military police officers were chasing is not a no-name guy, but one of the well-known people of Trost. Flegel Reeves, the son of the deceased, Dymo Reeves. Flegel turned left, but what left him is a dead end. Flegel looked up and saw the tall walls that were blocking his path. He then heard the military police from the distance shouting, "You idiot! That way is a dead end." Shit! In a panic, he then tried to climb the boxes that stacked up high, but couldn't because of his fat body. Then, someone descended from above and picked him up. As the military police caught up to Flegel, they then looked towards the alleyway and saw that Flegel was gone. **T, he's gone. Find him! Find him!" shouted one of the people. He looked quite scared and said, "Don't let him escape." Chapter 71, The Infamous Wanted Man, 1. Hang looks down towards the 3 military police officers that were looking for Flegel. Hang then looked back towards Flegel as soon as she saw that the 3 military police officers were gone. She then kneels at the same height as Flegel and says, "You're the son of Boss Reeves, right? What's your name?" Hang looked towards Flegel as Flegel answered and looked down, "Flegel." This attitude didn't bother Hang and said with a friendly smile, "Nice to meet you, Flegel. I'm Hang Zoe. The thing is, if the military police is after you, that must mean you know the truth about your father's death, right? Can you tell me what happened?" Hang asked that since that's the only thing, why must the military police chase and hunt down Flegel? Even though she knows it, she wanted to confirm and know who was it that killed Demos Reeves. Flegel glanced at Hang and then began telling what he saw that day. "While I was busy taking a piss, the interior police got my old man." As Flegel said that with his scared voice, he remembered the guy that killed his father and said, "A tall guy wearing a black coat, he killed my father." Hang looked towards Flegel and grabbed his hands and said, "In any case, it's great that you're still alive. Now we can make the truth public." Flegel was stumped and looked towards Hang with his messed up face and said, "How's that? Haven't you seen the paper?" He stopped staring at Hang and just looked down at his palm as he said, "If the military police say the scouts did it, that's the truth. My testimony means Jack *T. Hang looked towards Flegel with pity as Flegel mumbling with a scared voice, "They know I was there. The interior police found out I saw everything. Now there's nowhere safe for me to go. All I can do is run and hide in these cramped walls. My life is *T. About all Flegel's statements, all of that was true, and so Hang didn't deny it and said, "Well, you have a point. The thing is, it doesn't sound like living to me." Hang got up and looked down towards the whimpering Flegel and said, "Look at it this way, Flegel. Instead of scampering around like a scared little mouse your whole life, wouldn't you rather face up to your enemy, even if it means risking your life?" Flegel cut off Hang and looked up towards her with his eyes that were like looking at a madman as it looked towards Hang and said, "Like hell, I would. Not everyone has the same disregard for their lives as you do. Not only that, but you have no right to criticize me either." Hang was a bit stumped at Flegel's cowardice and said, "Don't you care about telling your company and family the truth? Hey! That's just what's best for you." Flegel lashed out, but then met with Hang grabbing his shirt while saying, "Of course it is. You ought to start thinking what's the best for you, too." Hang shouted that, but that's a little too loud that it was heard from houses since they were technically on the rooftop. "Who's that? Who's making a scene on my roof?" Hang looks towards the house where the voice is coming from. She didn't waste time and just dragged Flegel with her as they began to run. "Now then, you're coming with me, Flegel, Hang said that, and as she looked towards Flegel, who replied with, "Hell no. Your gang is already lost." Flegel said that since he knew that the Survey Corps have been freezed from their activity, the commander has been accused of murdering his father and was about to be sentenced to death this day. Hang began running as Flegel shouted, "You've been defeated. What are you talking about? Defeat is all the scout regiment has ever known." Hang said that as she began running towards the roof, with the conviction that Erwin had a plan, since the guy is not to be messed with. Running towards the roof, Hang then said, "Erwin, I will now clean our name. You have to clean your name too." Hang then dragged Flegel to the guy's reluctance, since being with the Survey Corps spells doom to anybody. They began running towards the dark places, avoiding contact with anybody, and met up with Moblet, who was waiting for them to come to their meeting spot. As Hang and Flegel meet up with Moblet, and begin planning how to clean their names and have the Trost people know that they did not kill Demos Reeves. As the three were in an abandoned warehouse and were planning the plan, a step quickly echoed that can clearly be heard from the inside. The three jumped in surprise as Hang quickly blocked Flegel's mouth with her hand and signaled Moblet to know who the person was. Moblet nodded and drew his swords, and cautiously walked to not alert the other party. As Moblet began to walk away, Hang looked towards Flegel as she let go of her hand and said, "Let's hide here." Hang dragged Flegel to the back of large boxes as the guy then said, "We're done for, let's just get out of here." Hang looked towards Flegel and said, "Who knows? Maybe it's a friend of ours and will help us." "Hey? Who will help the Survey Corps?" Flegel said that as footsteps sounded, as Hang heard Moblet say, "Captain, the person is not hostile and he also said that he will help us." Flegel was stumped and looked towards the now smug Hang, who then said, "See." Hang and Flegel got out of their hiding spots and saw a person with a black robe and a hat that blocked his face. As Hang and Flegel were in sight, the mysterious black robe person then lifted up his hat and bowed in a gentlemanly way and said, "Hello to the two of you. My name is Vincent and I'm here to help you." Chapter 72, The Infamous Wanted Man, 2. As soon as Vincent said his name, Hang and Moblet were stunned. Hang raised her eyebrows at Vincent and looked at him seriously. Flegel, who has the smallest ball out of the two, was trembling and looking at Vincent while mumbling to himself and pointing at Vincent. "Are you that Vincent who killed the Pope as well as tried to assassinate Lord Rice?" Flegel said as Vincent looked at Flegel, who then trembled in fear when their eyes met, and Flegel hid in the back of Hang. Vincent nodded at Flegel and said, "Precisely. I'm that Vincent who killed the Pope." "So you're that guy," Hang said and looked towards Vincent cautiously as she knew that Vincent is a wanted man who kills people as high as noble and Pope. "Why would you help us?" Hang asked that since they are in a bad spot and having someone help them is a good choice, but she needed to know the other party's intent on helping them. "Since you guys are like me, wanted by the government. Me wanting to make the government chase you guys longer and fiercer so that they will not search for me for a long time. I will help you guys with this one, and so I reckoned we should help each other and it is for your own good." Vincent said that, as he genuinely wanted to help them. Helping them means that the government will be in a bad spot and Aaron being kidnapped is not a good deal for him, but if it is how it is supposed to go, Vincent could only watch. Hang thought for a moment and said, "Okay." She then took a step and reached out her hand to Vincent and said, "Nice working with you, Vincent." Vincent was surprised at how quickly they can work together, but the quicker the better it is, and so he said, shaking Hang's hand, "Nice working with you as well, Section Commander of Survey Corps, Hang Zoe." "Seems like you know me well, Vincent," Hang said, since she heard from Vincent her full position and full name. Vincent smiled lightly and said, "Well, I can ask the same for you, Section Commander, Hang." "How?" Hang asked with raised eyebrows. "From what I heard, Hang Zoe is a calculated person, and you accepting me readily raised a question mark from me, and so I concluded that you know my past, or heard from Aaron and the others." Vincent said all of that with ease since he knew as well that Hang is not a reckless person, not reckless enough to endanger herself without a meaning on her action. Hang nodded and said, from the 104th Military Training Corps, same as Aaron and Mikasa. The number 1 in the ranks and is known as the best graduate of all times, killing 20+ Titans in the Trost Titans attack. Joined the military police and had the biggest contributions for being a trainee and expected to be captain on his 20, but after the attack on Chitohes district, he killed the Pope and tried to assassinate the noble, Rod Rice. I heard Aaron and the others have a high opinion of you. Even Levi has high expectations for you, as you technically help him and his squad fight the card Titan on Chitohes. Is that all correct? Vincent nodded, since his profile is not that censored on a high ranking like captains and commanders. Flegel became pale when he heard that Vincent killed 20+ Titans. 2 to 20? For real? Flegel looked at Hang incredulously. Moblet at the side heard everything Hang had said and looked at Vincent with respect. So you're that Vincent, hey? But, apart from all of your amazing feats and skills, why would you kill the Pope? Hang looked towards Vincent, who then didn't dodge the eye and said, I heard a little about the Titans and such, and so decided to investigate it. The Pope has some amazing secrets that I prefer not to tell you guys, but I know you guys, you knew some secrets as well. Vincent said that towards Hang, who then laughed and said, okay. Since we're all here, Moblet, tell Vincent about our plans. Moblet nodded and looked towards Vincent and then began telling their plans. At the back, Flegel glanced at Vincent and then looked towards Hang and said, Hang, did you really trust that guy? Flegel asked that since he knew that Vincent not only killed the Pope, but many small nobles and such. Hang looked towards Flegel and said, look at this Flegel. Hang raised her hands and raised them sideways. In this world, there could only be black and white. The good or the bad. Hang then looked at Vincent and said, people who would sacrifice their life from humanity can't be that bad. That's right, Flegel. People who can kill Titans is a good person. That's why. You should trust me. At noontime. In the desolate area of Trost. Back in the corner with no escape. Flegel, who ran for quite some time, is hella tired. 3 military police officers then cornered him as one of them said, how dumb can you be? Running into a deserted dump like this? *T. Flegel said that nervousness couldn't help but show on his face. Even though he knew that this is a trap for military police, having a gun pointed at him is not a pleasant experience to have. Looking down on the happenings below, Vincent just waited for the military police officers to spill some words that will make the Survey Corps clean from their name and they will go to subdue them. And it is this moment. You don't know? He betrayed us and sided with those damn scouts. Betrayed? So you're saying it was the interior police that made him kidnap those scouts? Except it was a different squad than us. Guess he didn't say a damn thing. Not to his dimwit son. As that damn military police guy spilled out the truth, Vincent the two ready to attack when Flegel signaled them and look above you, morons. Flegel then pointed as 3 individuals dropped from the sky and subdued the 3 military police officers. Hang then looked up and said, did you heard that, everyone? As then people began appearing from buildings that were looking like a deserted dump. As everyone began to wrap it around, Vincent looked at this scene as everyone praised Flegel's bravery. Vincent then faded from the background as if he wasn't involved in anything that just happened. Like a insignificant character in a story. Chapter 73, Coup d'etat. A/N, one of you said that Vincent is passive and because of that it's not fun to read. But don't worry, there's a reason for that and you will know it sooner, or you can go to my Patreon and read in advance. For only $5 and read the rest of the chapters, 13 chapters, https://www.patreon.com/can you make it clear. Enjoy. Hang looked towards where Vincent was a while ago and saw him disappear on the spot and thought, truly a mysterious individual he is. As Hang was wondering where Vincent could possibly be, the guy in question, Vincent was now traveling towards the Shtohes district. Riding a horse, Vincent is now traveling towards Shtohes to quickly meet up with Annie and rescue Aaron quickly, and kill Rodrice as soon as possible. Now that the Survey Corps name is clear, I need to know what's going on in Erwin's situation on the capital, before executing my plans. Rodrice must be killed as soon as possible before that guy does something else. Annie must have the place where Rodrice is at now, but I can't fight them with myself only. Annie's identity must not be known to others, or he might retaliate. I need to do this by myself. Vincent's persona, Mr. Red, could be seen riding a carriage and going towards the entrance of Mitra's capital. Holding a printed paper in his hand, Vincent could still not believe that Erwin launched a coup d'état and successfully caught off guard the nobles, making Erwin's plan be successful as it is right now. The garrison commander, Pixis, the military police commander, Nile Doc, and the commander-in-chief, Darius Zackley joined forces and overthrew the government on its head. Even though it sounds easy since they are at the top of the military, executing this must make the risk-taker, Erwin Smith, a considerable amount of courage and grasp the heart of many to have it as of right now. The Mitra's capital, and not long after, the 4 district will be in a state of anxiety since the king they'd know is fake, and having the military control the state is not a good ending for them, or for the future of the kingdom. Now that I know what happened, I can safely assume that I will be a free man since the noble I killed, the Pope, is like the noble they captured, full of secrets. And I can safely assume that the 3 guys are being interrogated right now and the secrets of walls will be exposed sooner than I expected it to be. I need to meet Annie now as everything is going smoothly. I just hope Aaron will not die. Wait, he will not die, because... Vincent closed his eyes for a moment and opened them as he muttered, I see. Annie in the distance was monitoring the rice house. Looking around the house, Annie could see a lot of guards and even Kenny from time to time, patrolling and looking left and right. Historia is in that house with his dad, Rodrice. I don't think this is a good place to eat Aaron, and so I think they will travel. But where could it be? Annie put down the telescope and looked at the sun that was quickly going down. Annie at this time didn't hear about the news of coup d'état at the coup will be announced at noon and will be quickly distributed in the nighttime. News will be spread later to the 4 district, and so that's why she still hasn't heard of it. Then, a carriage exited the ground of the house and quickly rode towards the exit. Annie's location was currently in the Orvad district. The district of Rice family owned. How can I know their location and meet up with Vincent? Annie thought for a moment, then mumbled, then, capture one. Vincent didn't say I shouldn't capture one, he only said I shouldn't fight them. I will go and take a piss. A guy said that before going to a secluded place to take a piss. Whistling while undoing his pants, tisk. It's hard to take a piss when this ODM gear is on. On his back, a robed figure could be seen walking towards him quietly. As the guy finished taking a piss and was about to turn around, a quick kick hit the guy's chin that quickly made him collapse on the ground, unconscious. Annie then dragged the guy, and quickly left the scene. A while later, on the gate of Orvad district. Captain! One of our guys is missing. Caven said that to Kenny, who then looked around while frowning. Did you guys know his last location? Kenny asked his team, since one of his team is missing spells a bad omen for him. Captain! The last thing I saw him do was when he took a piss and never came back. One of the guys stepped out and said that. Hey? He just took a piss and went missing. Kenny said that in annoyance and was clearly heard inside the carriage. What happened, Kenny? We need to leave now or the Survey Corps will stop us. Rodrice said that, who is in the same carriage as Aaron and Historia. Tisk. We need to go. Let's leave that guy for now. Kenny said that and began to ride the carriage, followed by his team. The carriage then disappears from the exits of Orvad district to Annie's relief. They're gone now. I have to go back to Mitra's capital. Annie said that and began dragging the guy, but first tightly wrapping the guy in case the guy woke up. Doing that, Annie left and entered Mitra's city. Annie quickly frowned as she saw how distressed the citizens were confused. She looked at the driver and asked, "Sir, what happened here? Why are the people quite disturbed?" The driver looked at Annie and saw her large bag and thought, "A newcomer, hey. You probably didn't know, but just this morning the military launched a coup d'état and captured the nobles, proclaiming that the king is fake and all. That's the reason why you see the people here quite disturbed by the news." The driver explains to Annie's surprise. "What? A coup d'état?" Annie exclaimed. And the driver looked at her and said, "That's the same reaction I had when the news of coup d'état spread. I don't know what the military is planning, but I'm just hoping they quickly kill all the titans." The driver said that and kept quiet. Annie was thinking a lot of things, and so, the journey is smooth towards the inn. Entering the room, Annie could see Vincent looking outside the window. Chapter 74, Rice Chapel. Vincent heard the door opening and looked at it and saw Annie with a large bag on her back. He looked at the bag and said, "What's inside of that bag?" Annie dropped the bag that made a thud sound and said, "It is a human." "If you ask me who? This is one of Kenny's teammates." Annie said this as she opened the bag. And opening it placed a man with a terrified face. The man moves his face because his legs and hands are tied and only his head can move. The man was terrified as he looked at Annie. Vincent noticed this and said, "He's so scared of you. What did you do that made him turn out that way?" Vincent said this because he was also curious about what Annie had done to the person inside the bag that was scared shitless. Annie looked at Vincent, as well as at the man, and said what she had done. "He was scared that I would destroy his manhood and beat him enough to keep him quiet. That's all I did, and he was really scared. I picked up a coward, but it was okay for me since I wouldn't have my hand dirty anymore." Annie said this as if she was talking about simple things, which made the man even more scared. Annie turned to the man and said, "Tell me everything you know, and if you do not speak, you will lose your manhood." Vincent smiled wryly at this and thought, "Wow. Scary indeed. No wonder the guy got scared." Vincent didn't move anymore and told Annie, "Take the tape out of his mouth." "Behave," Annie said that and ripped off the tape on the guy's mouth, as the guy began begging. "Please, spare me. I will do everything. Please." The guy begged, but Vincent didn't bat an eye at this pitiful act. He killed so many people in the past, and so seeing this guy didn't bring out his pity. Vincent looked at the guy and then asked, "Where is Rod Rice, or where are you guys heading?" The guy thought for a moment and said, "On the Rice Chapel. We are tasked to guard them as per instruction of Kenny Ackerman." Vincent nodded and looked at Annie as he said, "Kill him." Annie was stunned and looked at Vincent as she said, "Wait, can't you see if what he says is true?" "Not anymore. He's telling the truth. He's useless, kill him." Vincent said that in a monotone. Annie nodded and looked towards the stunned guy. The guy cannot process the happenings, and when he did, he saw his body separated from his head. Annie retracted the blade from her hand and looked towards Vincent and said, "What do we do now?" Vincent stood up and said, "We go there. But, you have to watch from a distance. Don't reveal yourself without my permission, understood?" Annie was puzzled by the arrangement of Vincent, since him and her doing the job together will make rescuing Aaron easy. So, why had he done this? Annie had so many questions, but looking at Vincent's face that was intently looking at him, Annie could only nod. "Good. Let's go." Vincent said that and jumped towards the window, followed by Annie's shadow. And there you have it. The coup d'état was successful. Premier Zackley has control of the capital and administrative district. For the time being, the nobility hasn't rebelled. Hang said towards 7 people in front of her. The 6 people were crowding Levi, who had a piece of paper with news on it, telling that there was a coup d'état and was successful. Even though in disbelief, Armin remained clear-headed and looked at Hang as he said, what about the Boss Reeves incident? Hang was waiting for someone to ask that, and so she looked at Armin and said with a smile, we got a confession that proved the charges unfounded. His son Flegel really pulled through big time. Just like it's written right there, it shows the charges were bogus, they abused their power, and that King Fritz was a total fake. All our actions were justified self-defense. In other words, we're free people now. The 6 people, who looked at each other and smiled, couldn't help but appear as they celebrated. Looking at the paper in his hand, Levi said, looks like the gamble paid off. Hang smile, yet. She looked at the distance and said, it wasn't just Erwin though. The lone choices of many managed to change the world. As she chatted with Levi, Hang suddenly said, oh. Armin and the 5 of you. Speaking of many, we meet Vincent. Hang said that to the shocked of the 6. Jean still can't forgive Vincent, but the 5 more or less forgive him. Marco looked at Jean and asked Hang, what did Vincent do, Hang? That guy, he helped us, Hang said that and earned a stunning look from Jean, who then followed up a question. Why would he help you? That selfish guy. Jean said that in anger, as Marco tried to calm him down. Levi looked at Jean and then glanced at Hang and said, seems like Vincent is not on good terms with them. Hang smiled wryly at this, and then said, we need to rescue Historia and Aaron. I think I know where it could be. Let's get there and put an end to this battle. Hang and the others were riding a wagon towards the rice chapel. Hours passed by and in the distance, they saw the chapel. Stopping at the entrance of the chapel, Levi and the others began walking towards it when. Stop, Levi said that and gave a signal to all of them to stop on their tracks. Inside the chapel, on one of the chairs, a shadow of a person could be clearly seen sitting on them. Levi looked at the person with wary eyes, and shouted, put your hands above, and turn around. Levi shouted that and signaled everybody to be ready to battle anytime. The person heard Levi and then stood up. Hands in the air, the guy turned around as all of them saw the feature of the guy and blurted out, Vincent. Vincent smiled at their shocked face and said, yo. I haven't seen you guys in a long time. Chapter 75, Rod Rice, 1. You. Why are you here? When Jean saw Vincent, he couldn't believe it and so shouted. Jean had been friends with Vincent since the start of military training camp, but it all started to come apart when Vincent joined the military police and left Jean and his friends to a more comfortable place called Walsena. Vincent glanced at Jean and said, I'm here the same as you guys. I will help you kill Rod Rice and rescue Aaron. Hey? You have the balls to say that, now Aaron is in danger. Why did you not join the Survey Corps and protect Aaron? Why now? I see. It must be because of having a comfortable life by joining the military police. Jean said all of that. He had so many questions for Vincent since the day he joined the military police and have been accumulated till now. And now that Vincent is here in front of him, Jean couldn't help but spill it out. Looking at Jean's state, Marco couldn't help but be worried. Jean. Vincent looked at Jean and couldn't help but raise an eyebrow and said, I'm having a comfortable life? I'm a wanted man in the kingdom. Levi glanced at Jean sideways and looked towards Vincent as he said, seems like your friend is hiding more than you think. Looking at Vincent, Armin hesitated for a moment, but curiosity overcame it and couldn't help and question Vincent. Vincent? Why did you kill the Pope? Vincent shrugged for a moment and said, the same as you guys had been seeking. The truth about Titans and such. The truth you say. Levi looked at Vincent and muttered that. Brat. Seems like you know some information more than us. I'm gonna question you later. Levi looked around and said, let's save Aaron first. Vincent heard this. He then walked towards the platform of the church, and on the back of the podium, a secret door hidden in the carpet was laid there. Vincent pointed at this door and said, I searched the surrounding area of the church and couldn't find any entrances. I also searched on this church but found only this. I can assume that they got in here. Levi looked at the secret door and reached out towards it. Levi then glanced at Hang and nodded as he said, "This might be it." He then looked around and said, "We need everyone's opinion," and planned this out. As everyone began telling their thoughts, Vincent just watched on the sidelines. He watched as everyone began telling their specialties, and to the two, Marco and Armin. He knew from the start that they were smart. Marco and Armin tell their thoughts about the plan. Armin told about the weakness of the enemy's ODM gear. A big weakness of the anti-personnel ODM gear is their line of fire and anchor trajectory are both faced in the same direction. In other words, the area directly behind them is completely out of their reach. But their greatest weakness is, once they've fired off 2 shots, it takes a while for them to reload. Marco then tells about how they can make the enemies lower their shooting accuracy and lower their visibility and use it to their own advantages. With now knowing their weakness, we just have to be close to them, so our blade can reach them. I suggest using smoke and signal flare to blind them temporarily and so we can close to them and deal the final blow. Hopefully the layout in there is like I predicted, Hang said that as she looked down towards the hidden door. These presents better pay off, considering we went out of the way to prepare for them, Levi said that as he then heard Armin. All right, we're good to go. Armin said that as he finished tying the gas tank into the barrel. Are we? Levi said that and looked at everyone. Is everyone ready to get their hands dirty, too? Vincent at the side looked at everyone's face and saw their determined look, and said, "Seems like everyone has grown up." "That's right. I'm gonna beat you up, after these." Jean glanced at Vincent and looked away. Marco smiles wryly at Jean. Since they know why Vincent joined the military police, more or less, Jean forgives him, but he will not show it on his face. Jean is a bit of tsundere from what Marco could see. Vincent just smiles at this, and shakes it off. He knew that Jean forgave him and he's only going in a rebellious phase, also called puberty. Vincent thought about this and couldn't help but think, it's been 15 years since I got here. Such a long time had passed. Going down the spiral stairs, everyone then stopped at the door in front of them. Levi looked at everyone first to see if they were ready. Seeing that everyone's ready, Levi didn't waste his time and kicked the door wide open. Levi then commanded Armin and the others in charge of the barrel to roll it off the ground. 3 barrels successfully rolled on the stairs, and waited for them to settle down. Seeing this, Levi followed by Vincent ran and walked inside the door, and saw a wide open area. Sasha positions herself with her fire arrows, and aims them at the barrel. She hit the barrel that made the barrel explode, covering a large part of the area with black smoke. Seeing this, Vincent didn't waste his time and used the anti-personnel ODM gear he got and flew towards the smoke to hide. Levi and Mikasa then come out of the smoke, but still far from the enemy. So with the signal flare, Armin, Connie, and Hang fired it to hide the two. Vincent hid in the smoke, then heard Levi shout, "They're gathered behind the pillars. Continue the plan." Vincent heard this and smirked, "The plan is, to kill as many people as you can. A/N, if you guys manage to make my FIC to top 50 this week. I will publish the rest of the chapters next week. Till the end chapter, aka Chapter 85. Friday, today chapter 74 to 75. Saturday, tomorrow chapter 76 to 77. Sunday, chapter 78. Soon next week. We will have 7 chapters left, chapter 79 to 85, I will publish it all. Good luck guys, thumbs up sign. Chapter 79, The Sea. Chapter 80, Clue. Chapter 81, Who Are We? God or Devil? Just some titles to hype you guys. Chapter 76, Rod Rice, 2. 2 people were flying on the black smoke, when bang! A bullet hit one of them in the head. The other one looked back and fired. But Vincent predicted this and dodged early before the guy could look back and shoot. The last guy looked up and saw a gun pointed at him and couldn't help but panic and screamed. Ah bang! Vincent shot the noisy fellow and landed vertically on one of the pillars. Vincent couldn't help but smile and thought, as expected. I'm more comfortable using a gun than a blade. Years and years of experience hone Vincent's gun mastery. He might not be a 100% accuracy type of person, but he could for sure kill people. Boom! Another explosion happens as Sasha detonates the other barrel. Thick black smoke then surrounded the area. This is advantageous for short-range users like Mikasa, this disadvantageous and advantageous for Vincent at the same time, and so Vincent just focuses on using it to his own advantage. And that is sneaking on people's backs. Yeehaw! Vincent looked at the distance and saw Kenny, confronting Levi. Looking at this, Vincent glanced at some places he could hide and sneak up towards Kenny. Weirdly reloading the gun, Vincent then flew towards the black smoke. When Vincent saw Kenny was accelerating towards Kenny with a knife, Vincent thought, "This is the time." Kenny, as he was already closing to Levi, sensed something and stopped. Bang bang! 2 gunshots were heard, as bullets flew past Kenny. Tisk! I guess he will not die that easily. Vincent said that and hid towards the smoke. Kenny caught a glimpse of Vincent as he said, "Hi! Another brat." Kenny looked towards the smoke and said, "Quit hiding, brat." When Kenny was looking towards Vincent, Levi threw something and that made Kenny alert as he shot the thing. Levi threw. An explosion happened to Kenny's surprise. Using this, Vincent then appeared out of nowhere and fired 2 shots. Bang bang! Kenny sensed this, and so dodges. But this made him on guard towards his back, where the explosion of fire was still ongoing, and then Levi appears and uses his blade to hack towards the unguarded back of Kenny. Even though unguarded, Kenny was still Kenny and so managed to respond with his knife, but it is too late. Levi managed to make a massive cut on Kenny's chest. The wound went from chest to his stomach, and it was a massive injury for Kenny. Bastards! That really hurt. Kenny then retreated as Levi followed him, and Vincent still lurked in the dark. Then, hang! At the back, Vincent heard Marco and the others shouting. He looked back and saw Hang on the ground, not moving. Levi retreated, but Vincent did not and pursued Kenny and his men. This time, he was going solo. Bang bang! 2 shots were heard as Caven looked back and saw a familiar face. Is this Vincent? The wanted man? Caven saw how 2 of her teammates fell. Kenny saw Vincent too and said, "You cunning brat! You show yourself now that I'm injured." Kenny looked towards Caven and said, "Hold him down, I'm gonna go see Rod Rice first." Kenny then accelerated towards Rod Rice. Caven looked in front of her and saw where some of her teammates were guarding and said, "Just a little bit. Hang on everyone." Vincent then fired another 2 shots, as one of them hit the target and one of the bullets just injured one of them. Tisk! Such a low-range gun. Vincent was about to load another shot when the enemies passed by the mouth of the cave. He heard one of them shouted, "Drop it!" And a new drop, as Vincent looked ahead and saw them guarding it. The hell, they were prepared. When Vincent was wondering what to do, he heard Levi's voice from the back. "Vincent! Where are they?" Vincent looked and saw Levi and the others. He then pointed towards the net that was blocking the entrance and said, "There. Just pass by that net." Vincent then pointed above as everyone saw a crack and said, "Even they sealed the crack on the top." He then looks towards the back and saw Hang, and asked, "How's Hang?" Armin looked towards Vincent and said, "Not critical, only unconscious by the impact." Vincent nodded and said, "That's good." As Vincent said that, a light then lit up the cave as he looked towards the distance. A Titan transformed. Aaron. As the light began, Vincent caught something amiss. The heat radiating was too hot and the wind was too fierce. This is not normal for even a Titan. Vincent thought of that and mumbled, just what the hell happened there? The ceiling was collapsing as Sasha said, this place is gonna collapse. Vincent looked back and saw Armin pointing upwards. Captain! The hole! Marco! Moblet! Take hang and get the hell out of here! Everyone follow me! Levi said that and flew towards the hole. Vincent then followed. Vincent flew and saw pillars collapsing. On the front, he saw a giant Titan and on the platform, he could see Aaron and Historia. Vincent then wondered who was that Titan when he saw Historia getting flung away and accelerated. When Historia was about to hit the wall, Vincent timely saved her and caught Historia. Historia! Historia opened her eyes, and was surprised by what she saw. Vincent! Levi landed and said, "Give me the keys." Historia handed the keys as Levi and the others tried to free Aaron. Vincent saw their sorry states and decided to help. He drew the gun and pointed towards the chain, and shot. Bang bang! Because of that surprise, Jean and Connie flew the same as Aaron, with Levi barely keeping his balance. Jean looked towards Vincent and said, "Bastard! You almost killed me." Vincent glanced at Jean and said, "You're fine though." Jean was pissed off and walked towards Vincent, but Levi stopped him and said, "Don't fight here. We need to get out of here alive, first." As Aaron began ranting, Vincent just watched Aaron with interest in what he was going to do. He knew that Aaron would survive. How? Vincent just looked towards the side. And look at someone. As Aaron began running towards the Titan and transformed. He then did something Vincent saw from Annie. Hardening. Levi was quick to think and said to everyone, "Everyone! Get underneath Aaron." Vincent then Princess carried Historia, to Historia's surprise, and flew towards Aaron's back. Chapter 77, Rod Rice, 3. As the intensity of heat spread, Vincent looked up and could see Aaron's Titan form was now covered in crystal or armor. That's what Annie called this thing. The ceiling and the floor were covered as well, as a web-like crystal armor blocked the entrance where Rod Rice was at. Destruction after destruction was heard. As the heat continuously spread, the intensity began and became higher, until it was gone. After the commotion stopped, Levi then looked towards Mikasa and said, "Mikasa, help me get Aaron from up there," and pointed towards Aaron's nape as he flew towards it, followed by Mikasa. Vincent! A small whisper could be heard as Vincent looked down on his arms and saw Historia still in his embrace. Cheeks flushed red and with a small whispering voice Historia was embarrassed and so Vincent let go of her. Historia stood up and looked towards Vincent and said, Thank you, Vincent." Vincent just smiled at Historia and shook his head as if telling her that it was nothing, and looked up towards Levi who was hacking Aaron's crystal-armored nape, and finally, Aaron got out from the nape. "Even after cutting you away, the Titan hasn't disappeared. Pretty impressive, yet." Levi said that as he looked towards Aaron. Looking around, Aaron fell into deep thought and remembered, "Oh, yet. Right before I turned into a Titan, I drank that armor bottle. Yet. You couldn't do it after now, but you used the hardening power. And saved all of us. In the blink of an eye, you devised and built this. Yet, the construction looks shoddy, but I bet that's how the walls were made, too." Levi then looked towards Aaron in the eyes and said, "It's possible for us to plug that hole in wall Maria now. A lot of enemies and allies have died on the way, and getting this far hasn't been pretty, but for as ugly as it's been, look at the position we're in now." As Vincent heard that, he couldn't help but picture how dangerous these guys have suffered to this day. As Vincent and the others got out, they saw the damage that Titan, Rod Rice had done. It's like a giant worm had dug out and was destroying everything on its path. Vincent looked towards the distance and could hear and see how massive that guy is. Every crawl was like a giant stepping in. As Vincent and the others were looking at the Titan, A scout then found them and was led towards Erwin. "Everyone all right?" Erwin said that as he rode a horse close to them. Levi then rode a horse close to Erwin and said, "Hank's our only casualty." "Seems like nothing too serious," Erwin said as he looked inside the carriage and saw Hank's state, "but not only that." "Who's that?" Aaron said that as he looked towards Vincent, who was chilling on the carriage and looking towards the Titan, Rod Rice. Levi looked towards Vincent and said, "Vincent Glaze. Familiar? He's the guy that killed the Pope. Seems like he knew some secrets, and so we decided to drag him here." Levi then looked towards Aaron and said, "He's the same trainee camp and friends with them." "I'm gonna question him after this," Erwin said, and then look at everyone. "Well done, everyone." Levi then looked towards the giant Titan and back to Erwin as he said, "I've got a whole slew of things to report, but first." "What's that Titan?" "It's Rod Rice. I think we'll need your call on this, Commander." Levi said that towards Erwin. Erwin then looks towards Historia, as he knows that Rod Rice is Historia's biological dad. "Regardless, we don't have time to stand here and chat. Return to Walsena. You're going to let that big ass crawl right up to the wall. To Orvud district, actually. That's most likely where it's headed." As Aaron and the others finished chatting about the history of Historia's dad and kings, etc. that Vincent already knew, Aaron will now try to control Rod Rice and stop the Titan from crawling. Inside the carriage, Vincent looked towards Aaron, who was busy punching the air towards Rod Rice. "Stop, Titan! Hey, stop! I'm talking to you! Can't you hear me, idiot? Rod Rice, that means you! You tiny old man!" Vincent looked towards Aaron, who was concentrating on controlling the Titan but couldn't. He thought of something and said, "Aaron." Aaron heard a voice and looked towards its owner. "What is it?" Aaron was not particularly close to Vincent, but they could consider friends of friends. Vincent looked towards the Titan and looked back at Aaron as he said, "The founding Titan needs royal blood to fully function." Vincent then looked towards Historia, "Like Historia and Rod Rice did to you to actually see how your dad killed the Rice family, you need to touch someone from the royal family." "Hey!" Aaron was stunned and looked towards Historia and said excitedly, "Historia, can I touch your hand?" Historia looked towards Vincent and back at Aaron as she nodded. "Stop, Rod Rice!" Aaron shouted that as the Titan suddenly stopped. "Hey! It worked!" Aaron couldn't help but exclaim. It was a minimal movement, but the scout could clearly see this because of Rod Rice sized, but then Rod Rice continue to move. Looking at this, Vincent couldn't help but wonder why it would turn out that way. Based on his understanding of Founding Titan and their stories, this move could do the trick, but he severely underestimated Rod Rice, or Vincent looked towards the side of Aaron and could see someone looking back at him. Tisk tisk. Aaron tried again, and again, but to no avail. Aaron stopped as Levi told him. Aaron stopped. "You will exhaust yourself." Levi then looked towards Aaron and thought, using that power exhausts Aaron greatly. He then looked towards Vincent and said, "Brat! Seems like you're hiding many things." Vincent could only shrug and said, "I just said that out of the blue. Can't believe it actually works. Whatever. After this, I will interrogate you personally." Vincent looked at Levi and said, "Sure. Do your best." A/N, Vincent vs Levi, anyone? Haha. Anyway, the FIC is already at the top 50. So we need to make it more higher. And there's some foreshadowing of someone. Who could it be? Comment your thoughts. Or maybe keep it to yourself. And that someone will be revealed tomorrow. Keep voting, guys. Chapter 78, Someone. Chapter 82, Warhammer Titan. Just some titles to hype you guys. Thanks for reading. Love you all. Chapter 78, Someone. Looking in up and seeing Historia with a crown, Vincent couldn't help but be amazed by the turn of events. Historia is the new ruler and I'm already back at military police. Vincent was in the line of military police on the sides. On his side were Marlowe, Boris, and Hitch. They were the ones that he was particularly close to in the military police, but not close enough to be friends with them. Boris, from time to time, keeps glancing at Vincent. He wanted to ask Vincent something but endured it because of the ongoing event. Back at the military police. Vincent back in his old room on military police. Boris was staring at Vincent and question. Vincent, did you really kill the Pope? Looking at Boris's face, Vincent said, yeah, I killed him. Boris's mouth couldn't help but twitch, as he then looked up and down towards Vincent and said, then, why are you here? Aren't you wanted? Hey? My crimes already got justified, Vincent said that as he shrugged his shoulder and said, what? You want me to be a wanted man forever? Boris was startled and shook his head and said, no, no, no. I'm just curious. Okay, Vincent said and continued packing his stuff. After he finished it, he looked at Boris and said, don't worry. I got assigned to a new place. See you. Vincent then walks and leaves the room. Boris calmed down as he looked at Vincent and said, crazy. I don't want to leave with a crazy guy. Vincent quickly got out and hired a carriage to go towards the Mitra's capital. He was assigned as one of the guards of the new ruler, Historia Rice. As he entered the castle and reported himself, Levi suddenly appeared and said, come with me. Vincent was startled by Levi's appearance and thought, is this guy gonna question me again? After the Rod Rice incident, Erwin and the Survey Corps questioned him. Vincent told everything he learned from the Pope. He knew that the Survey Corps had their hands on the other nobles and so told them the truth. In the end, Erwin let him go, but Levi was still wary of him and questioned him from time to time. Like now. Looking in front of him was Levi. Vincent raised his hands since the questioning part is about him almost beating Levi in a fight. Levi didn't like it and so challenged him. Vincent then walks out of the room. Vincent could be seen visibly exhausted from the fight. Vincent couldn't help but sigh, Levi is too strong. He really is built differently. Raw power, quick reaction, etc. Levi beat him all to it. The only advantage he had is his form of fighting and techniques that were almost crushed by Levi. They both didn't back down until they were exhausted. No clear winner, but Vincent reckoned he would lose in the long run. Levi in the room looked towards the closed door and sat down. Then, the door opened as Erwin looked at Levi and said, how's Vincent? He's good. I think he will do a better job at teaching Aaron on fighting than me. Levi said that as he closed his eyes and rested. Levi approved of his skills. Erwin thought of that as he looked then said, I will ask Niall to borrow Vincent. Then I go. Erwin then left the room and walked towards where Niall is at. Every high-ranking officer was in the castle, because of the new rules needing to learn from the old ones. Looking in front of him was Historia. Vincent couldn't help but smile and said, you're a queen now. Historia nodded as she looked at Vincent and asked in wonder, why are you here, Vincent? Historia was simply curious and so asked. What? You don't want to see me? Vincent teased Historia and Historia was startled as she said, no, no, no. I'm just simply curious. I don't mean to hurt you or anything. I wanted to see you. Historia said the last part in a whisper. I'm just joking. Vincent said that as Historia quickly blushed and said, you. Seeing Historia's blushing and embarrassed face, Vincent decided to not tease her anymore, I'm here to guard you. I'm assigned as one of your guards. Historia was startled and looked at Vincent in delight, really? Yeah, that's why. You have to deal with me, Queen. Vincent said that as he bowed. On the side, some guards were there listening to their conversations and couldn't help but wonder, what is the relation between that guy and the queen? Then Niall suddenly appeared as the guards quickly saluted. The same with Vincent. Niall looked towards Vincent and said, "Vincent, follow me." Vincent got out of the castle, as he received a new mission. Train Aaron. Vincent was down to this idea and so accepted it. Before he leaves, Vincent then walks towards the inn and meets up with Annie. Vincent looked towards Annie and said, "I'm gonna train Aaron for at least a week or month. I have a task for you." Vincent looked towards Annie and said, seeing her down face, "Don't worry. The end is near." Annie nodded and said, "What's the task?" "I need you to take a break for long as I'm done training Aaron." Vincent didn't actually have a task to give to Annie and so decided to give Annie a vacation to relax herself. As Annie left the room, Vincent couldn't help but mutter, "One last thing to settle." 1 month has passed. In front of Vincent was an exhausted Aaron. After practicing and fighting, Vincent concludes that Aaron is a punching bag. Vincent can't land a solid hit, but Vincent could see that he improved. Not far but not close either from Annie's current ability. Vincent looked down towards Aaron and said, "The operation will start tomorrow. Don't push yourself too hard." "I will." Aaron said that as he then stood up. Looking at Aaron, Vincent then said, "Did you find something when you touch Historia?" Aaron thought for a moment and said, "None." "Oh, then go and rest." Vincent stood up and began walking towards a room. Vincent took a bottle of wine and poured something to himself. He then sat down on a chair. Looking at the wine on his hand in a daze, Vincent suddenly said, "Let's have a deal." Vincent said that as he looked up in front of him. This someone is the reason he can't move freely. This someone is the reason Aaron can't control Titans or Rod Rice. This someone is the one he saw from time to time. This someone is the reason Aaron can't control his power. A man with black hair, tied into a bun. Wear a black jacket with a slight marking on his head face. One can only see after someone transformed back from Titan to human. And that someone is from the future and his name was Aaron Yeager. Chapter 79, The C.A/N, before reading all 7 chapters. I just wanna say spoiler alert. You guys will be heavily spoiled, so read at your own risk. Enjoy. Looking up towards the wall where the Survey Corps was getting ready. A scream came from the ground and it was Flegel. "Hang! Good luck!" Flegel shouted with all his might. And was followed by many people. "Take back Wall Maria for us. The future of humanity is in your hand. Thank you for saving the city." Those kinds of encouraging words were shouted by the people. A building near the walls. Vincent was currently looking towards them. At his side is Annie and was currently looking towards them, precisely towards Aaron as she said. "So basically, we will not help them." "Yes. We will not help them, the Survey Corps, but I didn't say we shouldn't fight them, Reiner, etc." Vincent said that as he took a sip of coffee on his table, beside him. "Ha!" Looking outside, Vincent saw Erwin shouting towards the townspeople as the people replied with the same. "Ha!" It lasted for about a minute before the Survey Corps left towards their destination. Wall Maria, Shiganshina district. Seeing them depart, Vincent stood up as he said, "Seems like things are getting fun. Let's go now, Annie." Fast forward to the conclusion on Wall Maria. Defeating the Colossal was a big achievement. But it cost his friend's life. Aaron Yeager looked towards the burnt body of Armin, dragging the unconscious body of Berthold as he said, "Damn it, I should have known. I knew, you were more of a hero, than anyone else. I should have known, this would happen. But I had no other choice but to rely on you. Armin. Why, don't you run away." As Aaron muttered those words, mourning for the loss of his friend, Armin, he heard a sound towards his back. He looked back and saw a Titan. Seeing the Titan approach, Aaron quickly took out a blade and looked towards the Titan in front of him as Berthold became his hostage. You just try coming closer. Make one move to take him and he's dead. Saying that, Aaron looked closely towards his enemy and saw markings on his face and thought, what's that? He's got Titan marks around his eyes. Is he the Beast Titan? Then, are you Aaron Yeager? You look nothing like your father. Aaron was stunned hearing the man muttering those words. What? Believe me, I know what you're going through. We're both victims of your father. You've been brainwashed by him. Hearing those words and looking closely, seeing some features of his father's face to this Beast Titan. My dad. Then, the man quickly left seeing Levi. But before that, he leaves a word for Aaron. Aaron. Someday, I'm coming back to rescue you. A man quickly landed in front of him, as Aaron quickly said, Captain. On the Levi side, Aaron was negotiating, and when Levi was about to give Aaron the syringe, with a liquid that can make someone a Titan, someone landed with Erwin by his back. And it was Flock. Levi decided to use it on Erwin as Aaron and Mikasa tried to stop him. Levi argued that Erwin is talented, as Mikasa tried to stop him. Levi has the final say and so he did. He chooses Armin. Vincent looked ahead of him, seeing a vast large amount of water. It is generally sea. He was currently on the port of the Paradise Island. Besides him is Annie. After dispatching the ships and sinking them, deliberately saving one boat for them, Annie and Vincent to travel towards the other side. Vincent looked towards the sky and asked, what time do you think they will arrive? Annie pondered and said, probably night time. There's some time to rest and so, tell me something about your hometown. The Marley country. And so, Annie told Vincent some places to go and what food she likes, etc. Then, they heard a running footsteps and so at the distance, with Vincent's telescope, he saw the cart Titan, running towards them, the port. He stood up and said, you handle the cart Titan. I'll deal with that Beast Titan. Saying that Vincent readied his ODM gear, as she heard Annie said. Will you be all right? Vincent looked at Annie and said, piece of cake. On the cart Titan's back. Zeke was weirded out, seeing that no one was on top of the mini wall. He also cannot hear some noises coming from the port which is weird. Frowning, Zeke then said towards Peak, be careful, something is wrong. Then as they neared the port and the feeling grew stronger. Two shadows suddenly appeared on top of the mini wall, as Zeke shouted. Who? Then, he saw one of them transformed into a Titan he knew. The female Titan, and the other didn't move. Zeke was stunned seeing Annie and heard from Peak that Annie betrayed them and sided with the Paradise people. Seems like it's true. Zeke muttered as he then jumped and transformed into the Beast Titan. Looking at the charging Annie, Zeke shouted. Wrong move, Annie. But then, something happened. A swish air was heard, as Zeke saw the other shadow move towards him. But, the shadow moves at an insane speed. Zeke blinks, and then saw his Titan body, from his Titan head, become decapitated. Hey! And then he remembered. I need to watch out for two people. Zeke said that as Reiner answered. Yes. Captain Levi is dangerous. Reiner then hesitated as he added, and the other is Vincent Glaze. He is a. Zeke already saw Levi on action, but this time around. He experienced Vincent on action. He was stunned, but then remembered Reiner's last word. He is a monster. Zeke then lost vision, as his consciousness drove back to his human body. That now on Vincent's hand. After finishing the Beast Titan, Vincent then took the human, named Zeke, and saw his speechless face and didn't show mercy as he put the guy to sleep. Vincent then looked towards the other fight and saw Annie captured Peak on her hand. He nodded as he then tied the two. He looks towards the still Titan form Annie and said, "Start the plan." Chapter 80, Clue. Swish air. Jumping up towards the top of the walls. Vincent looks down towards Annie who is on the bottom and says, "Lock them in the basement." He then looked towards the Shiganshina at the distance and said, "Well. It seems like it is a victory. Because the hole on the wall has now been fixed." Bang! Looking towards his side. Annie in her female Titan form has been holding something in her hand. He glances and began walking towards the Shiganshina district as Annie slowly descended on the ground. Looking in front of him. Vincent couldn't help but shook his head. He saw that the Shiganshina was almost wiped out. He then thought of Berthold, the colossal Titan. Annie said that when he transforms, a massive explosion took place, and boy it was massive. Vincent looked around and saw a horse. Riding it and began his journey towards the Trost district. As he neared the Trost district, the guards on the walls were stunned, seeing a human riding a horse outside the walls. Though the mission was successful, Titans still roamed and were numerous, inside the wall Maria. Seeing an approaching person, the guards were alert since they'd known that the enemy is a person that can transform into a Titan. But then, saw his attire. Vincent was in his military police attire, but still, the guards were not relaxed. Jumping from the horse, Vincent quickly flew up on top of the walls. Landing besides the tense guards. "I'm safe." Vincent said that, as one of them remembered him. Then, looking down on the Trost district. Everyone was static by the news of Wall Maria being reclaimed, even though it has been a day since it happened. Vincent hired a carriage and quickly made his way towards Mitra's city. As he entered the Mitra's city, the people from here were as static as the people from the Trost. Humanity won against the Titan. This is big news for everyone and it was newsworthy of celebration. But, only 10 survived. Aaron, Levi, Hang, Mikasa, Jean, Armin, Flock, Sasha, Connie, and Marco. There were the heroes that returned alive. And for the other, they died heroically. Entering the castle. Vincent did it easily, since he is a guard of the Queen. Him vanishing was with a reason, and only Historia knew it. And so, it is a secret mission. Walking towards the hallway. Vincent inquired about the location of the Queen. Guards recognized him since he was sort of famous. Being the Queen's personal guard and all. He then quickly made his way towards the room where Historia was at. 2 guards were guarding the door. The guard saw him and let him knock. Knock knock. "May I enter?" Vincent then heard Historia's voice, "Enter," prompting him to enter. And so he did. Vincent entered, as he saw Historia sitting besides the window. Reading on what could possibly be a letter. "What's that?" Vincent said that as he saw Historia quickly put down the letter and said, "A letter from Emer." Historia said that as she added, "There's no information pertaining to the other side." Seems like being a queen is a hassle, Vincent said that as he sat down on one of the chairs. He put one of his feet above the other. Historia smiled at this sight and said, "You're the only person who could do that, in front of the Queen." And, nonchalant at that. "What there's to be formal? We're friends anyways, let me use my privileges." Then, as Vincent said that, people entered the room. It was Hang and Jean. Jean was surprised and quickly became angry as he shouted, "Vincent! What's with that attitude of yours?" Vincent just quickly glanced and saw Hang. He then looked towards Historia and said, "I'll leave. Seems like you guys will talk about something important. See you later." Vincent stood up and left. Seeing this scene, Hang looked towards Historia and said, "Vincent really disregard your title. I don't know if it is arrogance or ignorance. But it seems like it's not. Quit it. His attitude is fine. Okay. As long everything's fine." Hang then shifted the topic and began talking about their missions and the likes. Vincent left and was walking towards the hallway and saw 4 people. They were Levi, Aaron, Mikasa, and Armin. The 4 were surprised too, seeing Vincent. They didn't know what to say and so just greeted Vincent and passed each other. Vincent too, didn't bother and just nodded to their greetings. As the distance, Aaron glanced back at Vincent and said, "Vincent is becoming hard to read as time goes by." Armin nodded and said after some hesitation, "I'm still in shock at the fact that he shoulders the hate of Jean and the others. Joining the military police to find out the truth. It is hard and lonely for him." Armin became silent, and then Mikasa added, "Who do you think is that female titan that saved Aaron?" Armin pondered. Then Armin stopped walking as he remembered the memory of Berthold and said, "I think I know the identity of that female titan." Levi stopped as he frowned and said, "Who is it? Even though she saved Aaron, it doesn't mean she is on our side." Armin then hesitated as he then said, "I investigated the hometown of Berthold and Reiner and found out that they were the same. Then, not only that, there's another person with them. At first, it was impossible since she was dead." Armin's hand twitched as he said, "I think the female titan was Annie." Aaron stopped, as he then said, "Why would she help us? Annie is hard to read and treat everyone as dumb." Mikasa nodded at Aaron. "But then," Armin said, "No. Not everyone." Armin then added, "There's a person Annie respected." Mikasa pondered and then remembered. Him. Armin nodded as he said, "There's only one person Annie respected in the military camp. And it. Vincent. New chapter is coming soon. Write a review.